If you love hurricanes, daiquiris, and, well, any rum cocktail, listen up. Captain Morgan's about to shake things up like never before. We're talking Bourbon Street, New Orleans, home to legendary drinks and unforgettable moments. But what if we told you the most iconic cocktails here have one thing in common? Hint, it's not bourbon. That's right, it's rum. And Captain Morgan is bringing unforgettable fun to Bourbon Street in a way you won't want to miss. Get ready for something big as we gear up for Super Bowl 59. Make sure to keep your eyes on NOLA's most iconic street. Who knows, Bourbon Street might just need a new name. Stay tuned for clues and get ready for the most legendary adventure yet. Please drink responsibly. Captain Morgan Original Spice Rum, 35% alcohol by volume. Captain Morgan Rum Company, New York, New York.
Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counter-Spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
A dramatic Saturday edition of our Classic Radio Theater podcast, featuring two shows that aired on Sunday, February 8th, 1953, and they also aired at the same time, although on different networks. Jack Webb and Dragnet, and Escape, Ben Wright starring in an episode entitled Jetsam. We'll also have an episode of that date of The Chase from NBC. And then we'll go to 1952 for an episode of The Lives of Harry Lime, and we'll wrap it all up with an episode of Claudia. That's all straight ahead on this Saturday, the 8th day of February, 326th day of the year, 339th day of the year, rather, 326 days remaining till we get to 2026. A doctor in Salem Village, Massachusetts Bay Colony declared on this date in 1692 that 3 teenage girls were under the domination of Satan, leading to the Salem witch trials. In 1910, the Boy Scouts of America, incorporated by William D. Boyce.
On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country and to obey the Scout law. To help other people at all times.
To keep myself physically strong.
Mentally awake.
And morally straight.
The Boy Scout Oath, in honor of the Boy Scouts being founded on this date in 1910. D.W. Griffith's controversial film The Birth of a Nation premiered in Los Angeles on this date in 1915. In 1918, the Stars and Stripes newspaper published for the first time. President Warren G. Harding introduced the first radio into the White House in 1922. The first state execution using gas in the U.S. took place in Nevada on this date in 1924. They never should have gone away from gas because they now use lethal injection, and the problem is getting something that drug manufacturers will allow you to use is nigh on to impossible. In 1963, travel, financial, and commercial transactions by U.S. citizens to Cuba made illegal by the Kennedy administration on this date in 1963. In 1968, an attack on black students from South Carolina State University who were protesting racial segregation at the town's only bowling alley left 3 or 4 dead in Orangeburg, South Carolina. It was on this date in 1968 the science fiction film Planet of the Apes had its world premiere at the Capitol Theater in New York City. A number of iconic lines coming out of that motion picture, like this one from Charlton Heston.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
Of course, at the end of that movie, the serious implication that the Planet of the Apes was actually Earth, and that it had been destroyed, perhaps, in a nuclear holocaust. That's one reason why the apes might have taken over the planet. In 1969, the last weekly issue of the Saturday Evening Post hit newsstands. And in 1970, the owner of a small New York farm, Max Yasgur, refused to rent his farm for a second Woodstock festival, and his reasoning seemed sound.
I have no intention of a repeat next year, not because I have anything against the promoters. I have nothing against the promoters. I have nothing against the young people. I think that these music festivals should be held, but I definitely feel that our place in our little township is too small for the kind of crowds they would have to handle.
And I mean, when you think about it, it made a lot of sense. They did not have services to take care of that many people, and that was a big, big issue. It was on this date in 1971 the NASDAQ stock market index debuted. And after 84 days in space on this date in 1974, the crew of the temporary American space station Skylab returned to Earth.
Now, just a few hundred feet above the Pacific Ocean, splashdown, that's it. A beautiful, beautiful splashdown, and it looks from our point as though the command ship is in what's called, the command module is in what's called a stable one position. That means it is upright.
Now, plans to reuse the space station just fell apart, given that NASA had turned its attention and the government had turned its attention to the space shuttle. And so in 1979, the return was deemed, they weren't going to try to recycle it, they weren't going to try to reuse it, and they let it fall to Earth. And San Francisco Examiner offered $10,000 prize, equivalent to over $42,000 today, for the first piece of Skylab delivered to its offices. San Francisco Chronicle offered $200,000, over $840,000, if a subscriber suffered personal or property damage. And a Nebraska neighborhood painted a target so the craft would have something to aim for. Well, they were primarily trying to get it to land in the ocean so that it wouldn't bother anybody. Only there were problems at the end. It ended up landing in Australia, or portions of it did, and it was really. In fact, the Shire of Esperance in Western Australia, where it landed, fined NASA $400 Australian for littering. The fine was written off 3 months later, but Scott Barley of Highway Radio raised the $400 to pay it off for NASA. And Stan Thornton found 24 pieces of skyline at his home in that shire in Australia. Got his passport, flew to San Francisco, waited a week for Marshall Space Flight Center to authenticate the wreckage, and he got the Examiner Prize and another $1,000 from a Philadelphia businessman who had flown Thornton's family and girlfriend there. And it had only disintegrated 10 miles above the Earth. That was a lot lower than they expected. But as I said, that was such a hyped-up deal, the return of Skylab, and a bunch of money burning up in the atmosphere that probably shouldn't have. Alrighty, debuting on this date, also in 1974, the Norman Lear look at urban culture, Good Times.
Good time. Anytime you need a payment. Good time. Anytime you need a free. Good time. Anytime you're out from under. Not getting hassled, not getting hustled. Keeping your head above water. Making a way when you can. Temporary layoffs. Good times. Easy credit rip-offs. Good times. Scratching and surviving. Good times. Hanging in a jar. Good times. Ain't we lucky we got 'em? Good times.
many, Esther Roll, John Amos, and Jimmy J.J. Walker. Dynamite, who for years, J.J. Walker hated it when people said dynamite to him. But as he's aged now and gotten into his 60s, he has just accepted it. And he even uses it himself now, He would go on the nightclub and the stand-up comedy circuit, and he would just hate that. I was in Vegas when I saw him get mad at somebody over it. Anyway, people would get upset at Norman Lear because he would do all these things that were actually holding up a mirror to society. And some people got offended. Like, they got offended over so many things. And people finally realized, to a degree, that this stuff was actually what was going on in America. And I don't know. Anyway, the proceedings of the Senate broadcast on radio for the first time on this date in 1948. C-SPAN radio continues to this day over terrestrial radio WCSP in Washington, and by a satellite over Sirius XM, and on Android and iTunes apps. Also in 1993, GM sued NBC after Dateline NBC allegedly rigged 2 crashes intended to demonstrate that some GM pickups could easily catch fire if hit in certain places. Well, NBC settled the lawsuit the next day, which some people would say it probably means they did it. 1996, Congress passed the Communications Decency Act allegedly to regulate pornography on the Internet. And in 2010, Michael Jackson's personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, pled not guilty to involuntary manslaughter in the death of the pop superstar in L.A. Murray convicted, sentenced to 4 years in jail. Passing away on this date in history, Mary Queen of Scots, the entertainer Del Shannon, runaway, suicide. Also, Mary Wilson, founding member of the Supremes, passing away on this date, and model Anna Nicole Smith.
At 2:49 this afternoon, we were advised by hospital personnel that Anna Nicole Smith had died.
A Florida hospital following an accidental prescription drug overdose. Birthdays on this date include a man taken far too young who had a wonderful trajectory, James Dean.
My well came in big, so big, and there's more down there, and there's bigger wells. I'm rich, baby. I'm a rich one. I'm a rich boy. Me, I'm gonna have more money than you ever thought you could have. You and all the rest of you stinking sons of Benedicts.
From the motion picture Giant, released after his passing in 1955, wonderful, wonderful actor James Dean, born on this date in history, along with author Jules Verne, actor Charlie Ruggles, actress Dame Edith Evans, also pro wrestler Freddie Blassie, who was he was a good wrestler. But even better on the microphone, and a great manager, nothing but a pencil-neck geek. Actress Lana Turner, actor Jack Lemmon, Audrey Meadows, Dan Seals from England Dan and John Ford Coley, born on this date, and actor Gary Coleman. What you talking about, Willis? All born on this date in history.
Hi, this is Jeff Foxworthy. It is now time for the birthday announcements. The following people are now officially older than dirt.
25 Grammy Awards for John Williams. The music for Star Wars and E.T. John Williams, 93 years old today. Ted Koppel from ABC, 85 years old today.
I'm Ted Koppel, and this is Nightline.
Nightline started out as America Held Hostage during the Iranian hostage crisis, and it evolved into Nightline, the late-night news program. Ted Koppel, 85 years old today. Actor Nick Nolte is 84.
There's not one of you that's learned how to win. We got hammered the last 4 games. And it stops right now!
From the movie Blue Chips, Nick Nolte, 84. The very, very funny Robert Klein. I need to get this out for you to hear. He does a hilarious bit on rewriting and revising and creating a new national anthem. And it's just hilarious to realize how ridiculous those auditions might be. But very, very funny man. Robert Klein, 83 years old today. Actress Mary Steenburgen is 72.
C'est la vie, Melvin.
What's that?
It's French. I used to dream I'd be a French interpreter.
From the movie Melvin and Howard, Mary Steenburgen, 72 years old today. The man who wrote The Firm and A Time to Kill, John Grisham, is 70. Motley Crue's Vince Neil is 64. You've seen her all over your TV and you don't know her as anything but Flo from Progressive. Stephanie Courtney is 55. He spent 29 years in the 29 years in wrestling now. He was in the WWE for 23. Paul White, The Big Show, is 53 years old today. Actor Seth Green is 51. From Saturday Night Live, Cecily Strong is 41. The pro surfer who only has one arm made a movie about her, Soul Surfer, Bethany Hamilton, 35, and actress Katherine Newton is 28. Those just a few of the people who celebrate the 8th day of February as their birthday. And if this happens to be your birthday...
Hi, we're the 4 freshmen, and we just want to say... Happy birthday to you!
And our feature day is Sunday, February 8th, 1953. We're going to have 3 shows from that date today. We're going to start off in the evening with Jack Webb and Dragnet, and we'll have Escape a little bit later, and then an afternoon show from NBC called The Chase. But let's start off on NBC at Dragnet, and that will be coming up following these important words.
Should public utilities fail in time of disaster, refrigerated foods must be either cooked or eaten before they spoil. If this can't be done, throw it away.
Of course, if you're prepared properly, you should be able to handle that for a period of time. I posted up on classicradio.stream about the EcoFlow. It is a backup power system, and you can add solar panels to it if you so desire. But you can, and it's an amazing thing. I think it's a wonderful idea. It is more reasonable to have than a backup generator. So, check it out at classicradio.stream. I've got it in a box there. Check it out. Okay, we're going to go back now to Sunday, February 8th, 1953, 9:30 Eastern Time. Jack Webb stars in Dragnet from 72 years ago today.
Sound off for Chesterfield. Chesterfield, the first and only cigarette in America to give you premium quality in both regular and king size, brings you Dragnet.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to forgery detail. 2 men have been passing bad checks in your city. You have descriptions of both of them. You know the names on the checks. Your job, get them. First, we read you the 6 months report, then the 8 months report. Now, here is 10 full months of scientific evidence on smoking Chesterfields.
A medical specialist is making regular bi-monthly examinations of a group of people from various walks of life. 45% of this group have smoked Chesterfields for an average of over 10 years. After 10 full months, almost a year now, the specialist reports he observed no adverse effects on the nose, throat, and sinuses of the group from smoking Chesterfield.
That's the report. And Chesterfield is the first and only premium quality cigarette throughout, in both regular and king size. Fine tobaccos, the world's best, kept tasty and fresh, wrapped in the finest cigarette paper money can buy. Yes, everything that goes into your Chesterfield makes it the premium quality cigarette. And it's the only cigarette that gives you scientific evidence of real smoking pleasure. Try much milder Chesterfield today. They're best for you.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Thursday, April 8th. It was windy in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of forgery detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Welsh. My name's Friday. We were on the way back from the main jail, and it was 9:46 a.m. when we got to room 29. Forgery.
Well, that wraps that one up.
Yeah. When are we going to arraign him?
Oh, figure day after tomorrow.
Okay. Well, let's get started on these other crime reports, huh?
Yeah.
Friday, Smith?
Yeah, Skipper.
See you a minute?
Sure.
Sit down.
What's up, Skipper?
How's the Clemens thing going?
Well, we just talked to him. Says he'll plead guilty.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want you to take a look at this.
Okay. Border checks, huh?
Yeah. I want you two to go to work on it.
Are we going to work with Saunders and Bomey on it?
I want you to take it over.
Well, is there a case in it?
Yeah, but we got a call from San Francisco last night. They got Richards up there.
Oh?
At least they know he's operating in the Bay Area. Saunders and Bomey left last night. They've been on that one for the last year. Looks like they can clean it up. They get back before you bust this, they'll give you a hand.
Well, what's the pitch on it, Skipper?
It's all there.
Let's take a look, huh, Joe?
Mm-hmm. Sure, a bunch of paper.
Near as we can figure, they've been working a little over a year.
Yeah. All the checks are drawn on big companies here. You any idea where they're getting them?
No, not yet.
How far we got on it?
Saunders and Bomey have been working on it. They got about halfway through the list of print shops in the city. Then this thing up north came up.
Mm-hmm. Let me see some of the checks,
Oh,
will you, Joe?
yeah, sure, here.
You got rubber companies, oil companies, department stores, aircraft.
How about the ID when they pass them?
The works, driver's licenses, social security cards, lodge cards. Looks legit enough. Been a lot of people taking.
Descriptions always match, do they?
Close enough, yeah. Now and then there's a little difference, but they all match up close enough. Still using the same bad border.
Uh-huh.
You notice that even though they changed the name of the company on the check, changed the heading all around, they use the same border on all of them.
Yeah, I see.
Look, there in the lower left-hand corner. See?
Yeah. Plate's broken. Little break in the border.
Mm-hmm.
All the checks they pass have the same thing.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't notice it unless you're really looking for it, would you?
Well, that's it. All the reports are there. Everything that's been done. It's in your lap now. Need anything, let me know.
Right. Okay, Skipper, we'll get right on it. You know, from the package here, sure looks like they're scoring good, doesn't it?
How much they got?
Well, let's see. Figures about $70,000.
Huh. All the bulletins we put out. Know the people you cash checks for.
Yeah.
70,000. It's a lot of money, isn't it?
Sure is.
If people would just read those bulletins. They never learn, huh?
10:02 a.m. We started through the package. The check forgers had been working for over a year. They'd passed phony checks all over the southern part of the state. The amounts on the checks varied from $50 to $275. They carried 10 different endorsements. The names and signatures had been run through our files, but we'd gotten no identification. The writing had been checked by Don Meyer, but there were no examples in the files that matched. During the next 2 days, we finished canvassing the print shops in the area in an attempt to find where the bad checks were being printed. We came up with no new information. Additional circulars were gotten out to all stores and check cashing agencies in the area, giving the description of the two men and lists of the companies the checks had been drawn upon. Photographs of the checks pointing out the border defect were also distributed. 2 weeks went by. No results. Informants had been checked and rechecked. Known forgers had been questioned. The victims of the forgers had been shown the mug books. They failed to make any identification. From what they'd told us, we had the artist in the crime lab draw up a composite picture of the two men. Copies of these were distributed to the people and organizations most likely to cash the phony checks. Lieutenant Saunders and Sergeant Bomey finished their investigation up in San Francisco and joined us in the search for the forgers. Tuesday, April 27th, 10:14 a.m. Frank and I checked back into the office. Lousy thing.
Yeah. Clutch was out. You know, I thought it was a pin. Sure felt like it. Funny feeling when you press down, there's nothing there.
Did he say when it would be ready?
I thought he could have it for us in the morning. I'll check the business office and get another car.
We'll try to get a good one. The last one we drew was about to fall apart.
Yeah.
I'll get it. Forgery, Friday. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, that's right. What? Uh-huh. What was that address again? Yes, ma'am, I have it. Yeah. Yeah, well, do everything you can. Yes, ma'am. Right away. And get your coat.
What is it?
Check cashing agency out on Pico. The guy's there now. Frank and I left the office and checked out another car. We drove out to the check cashing agency on Pico. It was located near a large tool and die plant, and they advertised that they cashed payroll checks. 10:33 a.m. We parked the car and went into the store.
You the police?
Yes, ma'am. Are you the one that placed the call?
I sure am. I stalled him like you said. That's him back there. I told him that he'd have to wait for the manager to get back and open the safe. He got pretty huffy about it at first. Then he said he'd wait. I think he's been drinking.
Yes, ma'am. All right, we'll talk to him.
He's the one. You'll see. I spotted him right away. Took one look at him, and I knew he was the one you've been looking for.
All right, ma'am. Let's go.
Sure fits the description.
He's the one.
Excuse me.
Yeah?
You wanted to cash a check, did you?
Yeah, that's right.
What if we could see your identification?
The young lady has it.
Here it is. His driver's license and his Social Security card.
All right, thank you. Leslie P. Bergen, is that right?
That's what it says.
Yeah, we've seen it before.
What if we could see that check?
You bet. I'll get it for you.
Well, look, there's no reason to make a federal case out of this. Give me the check and I'll go someplace else. I tell you, though, you act like this to everybody who comes in here, you ain't going to stay in business long.
Yeah.
Here you are, officer. Here's the check.
What's she talking about?
What?
Officer. She called him officer. What are you, cops?
You called it. How about it, Joe?
Yeah, broken border. Where'd you get this check, mister?
Well, what do you mean, where did I get it? They gave it to me at the plant.
Gave you this check, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Say, what's this all about anyway? How come you guys are so interested?
I wonder if we can see what you got in your pockets.
No, I don't have to show you. It's none of your business.
You been drinking, mister?
None of your business. You got no call to act like this.
All right, come on. Let's see what's in your pockets.
Well, what's that going to prove?
Now, look, Bergen, if you haven't done anything wrong, then you got no reason not to show us, have you?
Yeah? Oh, all right.
Put the things here on the counter.
All right. You guys going to regret this, you know.
Is that right?
You just bet. I got a lot of friends in pretty high places, and they're going to hear about this. You guys be sorry you ever started this.
All right, come on. You can go a little faster than that, can't you?
All right, here. Here's some keys, change, money clip.
All right, pick up the money and keep that with you. Now, just the money. Now the back pockets.
Back pockets?
That's right. We want to see what's in them, too.
Well, all righty. I'm glad to cooperate with the law. Nice to know you guys are this alert. I'm glad to know you're doing your duty.
Yeah, come on. Let's get to those back pockets, shall we?
Say, what's your name?
Friday.
Cop, huh?
That's right.
Friday, huh? Yeah, what's your first name?
Joe.
Joe Friday.
That's right. Now, come on. Get the stuff out of your back pockets. Will you stall long
I bet
enough?
you think I'm trying to hide something in there, huh? Well, you're wrong. I got nothing to hide. There's my wallet, comb, and that's all.
This key here?
Yeah?
Keys to your car?
No, I don't have her.
Oh, that's not true, officer. I saw him drive up. That's his car out in front, the red Ford.
Is that right, Bergen?
Well, now, maybe it is, and maybe again it isn't.
You want to check on it, Frank?
Yeah.
Here's the keys.
I hate to think of it, I really do.
What's that?
Trouble you guys are going to get into when my friends in high places hear about this.
Yeah, sure. Let's look at your wallet, huh?
Why, you bet. Always glad to cooperate with the law.
No, you hold it. Just open it up. Any money in it?
I told you the money's in the money clip. Right here, you told me to keep it. You don't remember very well.
Well, these your cards here? Business cards?
Let me see.
Here.
Yeah, certainly, they're mine.
Leslie Paul Bergen, business advisor. I thought you said you worked at the plant.
Part-time job. What's your name?
Friday.
What's your first name?
Joe, I told you.
Joe Friday, huh? I'd remember that and tell my friends in high places.
How about your coat pockets? Anything in them?
Well, cigarettes, maybe handkerchiefs, matches, that's about all.
All right, let's see them.
All righty. Sure nice to know that we got officers like you, always doing your duty. Yeah, see? Nothing.
Mm-hmm. Where'd you say you got this check?
What check?
This one here, the one you tried to cash.
Oh, yeah, that check.
Yeah, that check. That's the one.
Well, I got it from a friend. He asked me to cash it for him. Just so happened I had the money, so I did. Anything wrong with cashing a check for a friend?
How come the check's made out to you?
They always make checks out to me. Always do down at the plant.
Now, look, mister, you got your stories all mixed up here. Let's go downtown and get this thing straightened out, shall we?
Joe.
Yeah.
We hit it. 23 checks all made out to him. Found them in the glove compartment of the car. The car's registered to a Leslie R. Doyle.
What's his name?
Smith.
First name?
Frank Smith.
What is this?
Oh, he's a happy drunk.
Oh.
These checks yours, Doyle?
Well, let me see. Never saw those in my life.
Well, we found them in your car.
Oh, I certainly don't understand that. In my car?
Yes, that's right. Now, come on, let's go downtown.
Where are we going?
Downtown.
What's your name?
Smith, Frank Smith.
Phony name. You wait till my friends hear about this policeman using an alias. My friend's going to hear about this, you know.
Yeah, sure.
Ah, in high places.
10:57 a.m. The suspect admitted that his true name was Leslie Doyle and that the car belonged to him. We took him to the city hall. Frank ran the name through R&I, but we got no make on him. His prints were rolled, but there was no record on him. A communication was gotten off to George Brereton, CII Sacramento, and one was sent to Washington. 11:30 a.m. We took him to the interrogation room to question him.
I told you, I don't know where the checks came from.
They were found in your car.
So they were found in my car. That mean they're mine?
Looks like you had something to do with it. They all were made out to you, the phony ID you got there.
Well, maybe it's a joke. Maybe it's somebody's idea of a gag.
Well, it's not very funny, is it, Doyle?
Well, you don't have to tell me. Say, you got another aspirin, my head's coming apart.
Frank, you got
Yeah. Here.
Yeah, thanks. Got some water?
I'll get some for you.
No, never mind. I'll take it without. Thought you might have a tap here.
What?
Sure. You turn it on and let it drip, and then you don't give people none until they answer your questions.
Yeah, sure.
You take pills like I do, you get to the point where the only important thing is to get them in your stomach.
All right. Now, how about the checks, huh?
I told you 100 times I don't know anything about them.
Then maybe we better fill you in, huh?
Yeah, go ahead. I like to hear.
We got you for trying to pass a check this morning, didn't we? You want to cop out to that?
So maybe one check. Like I said, that's no crime. I cashed it for a guy. Maybe it was the same guy who applied on the other ones.
Oh, why don't you come off it, Doyle? Let's stop playing games here. We made you for the forgeries, and you know it. Your description matches the one we got. You turn up with 23 checks made out to you, all drawn on different companies. The border on the checks matches the ones we're looking for. We got witnesses who identify you. Now, why not save a lot of time and admit it? Come on, Doyle. Doyle?
Don't look like there's any other way, does it?
Not from here.
Well, if I cop out, will it help any?
What do you mean?
Like you said, now let's stop playing games. Will it help me out any?
You're liable for 1 to 14 on each count.
And if I help?
All we can do is see that it's marked down that way.
That's all?
That's all.
Well, then I got nothing to lose by not talking.
That's the wrong way to look at it.
You guys haven't come up with any other way.
We don't make deals, Doyle. You know that.
Well, all right. I'll play it that way, too.
Now, let's get this 510, huh? Your true name, Leslie Richard Doyle?
Yeah.
Charge, suspicion 470 PC, forgery, April 27. Where do you live, Doyle?
I told you once.
Well, tell us again, would you?
19,540 North Edge Hill Avenue.
Is that a private home?
No, it's an apartment.
What's the number?
Say, you got another aspirin. This headache's the worst one I ever had.
Don't worry, they're gonna get worse. We continued to talk to Doyle. He told us that he'd come from back east about a year and a half ago. He said that he'd never been arrested and he had no record. He refused to tell us who his confederate was in the forgery operation, and he told us that we'd get no help from him in proving that he was mixed up in it. We booked him at the main jail, and then we got in touch with Lieutenant Saunders and Sergeant Bomey. Together with them, we arranged a special show-up. The victims of the forgers were asked to be present, and 12 of them gave us a positive identification of Doyle as the man who'd victimized them. The others said that he was not the man. When confronted with this information, Doyle confessed to being one of the men involved, but he still refused to name his accomplice. A week went by. Each day we questioned Doyle. Gradually, we pieced together a picture of their operation. Doyle still refused to tell us where we could find his partner. The kickback from Washington and Sacramento arrived, but gave us no new information. All known friends and associates of Doyle were checked out. From them, we found out that Doyle did work with another man, but that none of the witnesses could identify him. The rumble was that the two men had split up because of Doyle's drinking. We were able to get little other information on the missing partner. Wednesday, May 5th, 11:40 a.m. Frank and I checked into Captain Welsh's office.
How about it?
No, nothing, Skipper. He says that he knew Doyle, but he doesn't know the other man.
Any of the other leads pan out?
No, none of them.
Where do you go from here?
Well, talking to Doyle's friend, we found out they used to hang out down there on Wilshire and Olympic. You know that area down there?
Yeah.
Well, Frank and I have been talking it over. Looks like about the only way to bring him out is to go looking for him.
Well, so you guys go down there, eh?
Well, we checked on that. The bunch down there aren't too chummy. They don't talk to strangers much, so we figured that maybe the best idea would be for one of us to go undercover. Maybe pose as a thief, buy our stolen goods, something like that. We might get a line on them that way.
Yeah, that'd work.
Well, not much choice now. We've tried about everything else.
Well, which one of you is going to do it?
Well, I thought maybe I'd be the one.
No, I don't know if that's such a good idea.
Why not, Skipper? Joe took the last one.
Yeah, but didn't you work that area when you were in Vice?
Yeah, but that was a couple of years ago.
Still might be some people down there who remember you. You better take this one on Friday.
All right.
When do you figure to start?
I thought in the morning.
Okay, work out the way you're going to keep in contact. All the details will give you the help you need to swing it.
Right, Skipper.
I don't know, Joe. Seems like you're always the one to draw this duty. Ought to be my turn sometime.
I'll trade with you.
You are listening to Dragnet, the authentic story of your police force in action. Smokers all over America are changing to Chesterfield because Chesterfields are premium quality throughout in both regular and king size.
King size Chesterfield contains tobaccos of better quality and higher price than any other king size cigarette. That's certainly important to every king size smoker. Of course, it's the same fine tobacco as in regular Chesterfield. There's absolutely no difference, except that king-size Chesterfield gives you more than a fifth longer smoke.
So remember, the modern way to sell cigarettes is the Chesterfield way. First and only cigarette with premium quality in both regular and king size.
Chesterfield is much milder. Chesterfield is best for you.
Thursday, May 6th, 9:30 a.m. I left my apartment and went down to the vicinity of Wilshire and Olympic. I spent an hour wandering around the bars in the area, and then I checked into a small hotel down on South Hill. I registered as Joe Kelvin from Phoenix, Arizona. I told the clerk that I was in town on business and that I'd be there as long as it took me to conclude the deal I was working on. I spent the afternoon in a bar on 4th Street, and I got friendly with the bartender. I asked him if he knew Leslie Doyle, and he told me that he'd seen him around, but that he didn't know him very well. I asked if he'd ever seen Doyle with another man. He said that he had, but he didn't know who he was. The bartender went on to say that the two men had frequent arguments and that they usually ended up with the other man walking out and Doyle going on a drunk. He told me that I might be able to get some additional information on the man in a cafe over on 5th Street. I spent the next 3 days wandering around that area, eating my meals in the restaurant. At the end of that time, I had no new leads. Frank, Saunders, and Bomey were still working on the case, and Frank told me that the bad border check passing was still going on. Further conversations with Doyle netted them nothing. At the end of a week, I'd gotten to know one of the waitresses at the restaurant, and she indicated that she knew Doyle's partner, that she knew him merely as Mac. She was unable to tell me where I could find him. I got in touch with Frank Smith, and he ran the name through the moniker file in R&I, but he got no make. Friday, May 14th, 10:56 a.m. I stopped for breakfast.
Morning, Joe.
Hi, Agnes.
What'll it be this morning?
Well, let's see. Orange juice, couple of eggs, toast, and coffee.
Eggs sunny side up?
Yeah. How's the bacon?
Great, just like always.
All right, couple of pieces.
Yeah.
Want to bring the coffee right away?
Yeah.
Is that the morning paper?
Yeah.
Thank you. What happened to the sports page?
Here. You don't look good this morning, bad an eye?
Yeah, had trouble getting to sleep last night.
Mm-hmm. How's the deal coming?
Oh, all right, I should wind it up in a couple of days.
What business you in, anyway?
Oh, you could call me kind of a broker, I guess.
That right?
Yeah. Coffee's been hot.
Yeah. Just what does that mean,
What, the coffee?
being a broker?
Oh, I buy things for a price and I resell them for more.
Things you buy. They hot?
Oh, why do you ask that?
Just wondered. Rumbles around that you're in town buying stolen stuff.
That right?
That's what they say. Is it true?
I don't know. I haven't been talking to the same people as you.
That the reason you want to get in touch with Mac?
Well, look, if I answer that, I've answered the first question, haven't I?
Yeah. That the reason, Joe?
Oh, it might be. Where's the sports page? Is it around? Why, do you know where I can get in touch with them?
I like you, Joe.
Yeah, well, I think you're nice, too. I'd like to have the sports page if you could find it for me.
No, I mean it. I think you're all right.
Well, thanks, Agnes. That's nice of you to say that.
You've never tried to get fresh. Different from most of the guys that come in here.
Is that right?
Sure. Guys all the time getting fresh, asking me out. Not you, Joe. You got a girl in Phoenix?
Oh, I might have, yeah. I haven't been back for a while, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky girl. What's she like, Joe?
Who's that?
Girl in Phoenix.
Oh, I guess she's a little like you. She's a nice girl.
You want to get married?
Well, I don't know. It kind of depends on this deal here I'm working on.
It'd be nice if you got married. I'm going to get married someday.
That'll be nice.
It'd be real nice if you got married. Depends on this deal, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. I'll tell you how to get in touch with Mac.
11:14 a.m. I continued to talk to Agnes. She told me that she didn't know where Mac lived, but that she could put me in touch with a man who might. She gave me the address, and I drove over to the place. It was a rooming house on South Vermont. I talked to the man, and he told me that he'd seen Mac during the past week, and that as far as he knew, the suspect was still living in an apartment house on 7th Street. 1:15 p.m. I called the office, and Frank Smith came out to meet me. We arrived at the apartment house and talked to the manager, Mrs. Nancy Holmes. She told us that she had a tenant named McLean who answered the description we gave her. She told us that McLean had lived in the apartment for the past 8 months. She went on to say that she didn't know what business he was in, but that up until a few weeks ago, he was in the company of a man called Doyle. Her description of the man matched that of the suspect. 2:46 p.m. In the company of the manager, we went through McLean's apartment. We found 14 checks made out to him, and all of them drawn on large companies. All of them had the same broken printed border. Frank and I waited for him to return. 5:32 p.m.
What are you doing here?
Your name Gene McLean?
Yeah, who are you?
Police officers.
These checks here. Where'd you get those?
On the desk over there.
You got no right to go through my things.
We'll talk about that downtown. Come on, let's go.
Now, look, maybe you guys made a mistake, huh? Maybe you got the wrong fella. Can't we work something out? This is a pretty good thing. There's enough for everybody. I'm sure we can make a deal, huh? No reason to act like this.
Where's the press, mister?
Huh?
The press you print these up on. Where is it?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know anything about a press. I don't even know what you're talking about.
It won't work, McLean. We got Doyle.
What's he told you?
All we need.
Well, then he's told you where the press is, too.
We're asking you about that, mister.
Well, like I said, I don't know what you're talking about.
You drive a car, McLean?
Yeah.
Where'd you park it?
On the street. No garages in this crummy place.
No, that's not true, Mr. McLean.
Oh, keep your nose out of this. You've been spouting off too much already.
That's not true, Mr. McLean. I heard everything from the hall. These officers asked me some questions, and I answered them. Police have never given me any trouble. 10 years I've been managing this place. Never had no trouble before. Now you come in here and louse things up.
Turn it off. Come on, let's get out of here.
Now, you just wait a minute. Come in here and call this a crummy place. You didn't know I heard you, did you? Well, I did. Listen, officer, he's lying when he says he doesn't have a garage. He may keep his car out on the street. Maybe that part's true, but he's got a garage. You just bet he has.
Come on, let's get out of here. Stick around here and listen to this loony old bag. She's cracking up.
Where is the garage, ma'am?
I'll show you. It's just down the street. It's an old place. They rent it from the Pearsons, just down the street. I'll show you.
From the old bat. Real harpy. Sticking her nose in where it don't belong.
Don't you talk to me like that. I don't know what it is that these officers are looking for.
Yeah?
But I'll just bet they'll find it there.
6:27 p.m. Mrs. Holmes showed us down the street to a garage set behind a large house. The door was locked, but McLean produced the key. We went over the place, but we found nothing. 6:55 p.m.
Satisfied now? Told you there wasn't anything wrong. I told you you wouldn't find anything here.
It's got to be here someplace, Joe. Yeah. How long you had this place, McLean?
A couple of months.
Now we can check the owner on that.
Aren't you guys ever going to give up? You maybe got me in custody, but that don't mean you're ever going to be able to prove anything.
I think maybe we'll be able to.
Joe?
Yeah.
Take a look here. On the floor.
Look here, see the old wooden floor, and most of the nails are all rusted over. And right here, they look pretty new. Looks like the wood's been moved. How about this, McLean?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Grab that hammer, will you, Frank, over there?
Yeah, sure. Here you go.
All right. Now maybe we can take a look.
Guys, you're wasting your time. You know that, don't you?
Yeah, well, it's our time. Don't you worry about it. You want to give me a hand here, Frank?
Yeah.
All right. You got it?
I got it.
All right.
It's all dug out down there.
Yeah. Let's take a look. There's something down there. How about this, McLean?
I don't know what you're talking about. The press, huh?
Yeah. Wait a minute. There's a package over here. Let's see what's in it.
Look, you got no right to come in here and tear up the place. I'm going to see a lawyer about this.
How about it, Joe? Yeah. Printing press. Take a look.
The graver's plates.
Look, there's the broken border. Yep. All right, McLean, let's go.
You just wait. My lawyer's going to hear about this.
Is that right?
Yeah, you bet it's right. Come in here, tear up the floor. You got no warrant, you got no right. Sick of being shoved around by you guys.
You haven't got any beef, McLean.
I'll decide that.
No, you're wrong,
Huh?
man. Somebody else is going to do that.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On August 25th, trial was held in Department 89, Superior Court of the State of California, in and for the County of Los Angeles. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, here are two important things to remember. Everything that goes into your Chesterfield makes it the premium quality cigarette, and it's the only cigarette that gives scientific evidence of real smoking pleasure. Try much milder Chesterfields today. They're best for you.
Leslie Paul Doyle and Jean Rowell McLean were tried and convicted of 10 counts of forgery. They received their sentences as prescribed by law and are now serving their term in the state penitentiary, San Quentin, California. Forgery is punishable by imprisonment in the state penitentiary for a period of not less than 1 nor more than 14 years.
Ladies and gentlemen, with long-range aircraft and atomic bombs, the enemy is only hours away from where you live. Our Air Defense Command relies on radar to detect enemy aircraft. But it is possible for low-flying planes to remain undetected. You can help defend America by volunteering for the Ground Observer Corps, a group of civilian men, women, and teenagers who report the presence and activity of aircraft. For information, write or phone your nearest Civil Defense Center.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors, Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Artie Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Ben Alexander, Art Gilmore, Whit Connor. Script by John Robinson. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
For a million laughs, tune in Chesterfield's Martin and Lewis show Tuesday night on this same NBC station. And sound off for Chesterfield, regular or king size. You'll find premium quality Chesterfields much milder. Chesterfield is best for you.
Chesterfield has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Tonight, it's Adventure with Barry Craig, confidential investigator on NBC.
72 years ago, February 8th, 1953, at 9:30 Eastern Time, Dragnet here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Coming up in a few minutes, we'll hear from the show that was on CBS at the exact same time, Escape. But first, we'll take a look at the news from this date, 72 years ago.
Alert Americans will heed history's lessons. Throughout history, surprise has had a leading role in military disasters. Today, an enemy capable of surprise air attack could leave chaos in his wake. That's why you should be in the Civilian Ground Observer Corps, volunteering a few hours a week to guard our skies. Be a ground observer. Contact your local civilian defense office.
Yeah, the Ground Observer Corps was important because early radar couldn't always detect low-flying aircraft. So that's where the Ground Observer Corps came in. And you hear about that there with that group about civil defense watchers, and you heard Fenneman talking about it at the end of the other show. Okay, we're going to have 3 shows today from the same date, Sunday, February 8th, 1953. Let's take a look at some of the news headlines of that date. A long-range U.S. Air Force B-36, pride of a potential atom bomb fleet, blew up in the air minutes after its 15 crewmen jumped to safety a few miles from the end of a transatlantic flight. The U.S. 7th Air Force clamped unusual security restrictions on details. It announced only that the giant bomber was flying with 15 other B-36s from the Carswell Air Force Base in Fort Worth on a routine training mission. Senator Ferguson, the Republican of Michigan, said the Air Force planned to spend hundreds of millions of dollars for spare engines and other aircraft parts, which it now admits aren't necessary. Ferguson pointed to a report by a special Air Force study group to back up his contention that too much money was going for spare parts rather than completed aircraft. President Eisenhower today signed his first bill into law, a measure creating a new Undersecretary of State, and formally nominated Donald B. Laurie to fill the post. The president's action on his third Saturday in the White House came after he had worked through a list of morning appointments, including one with representatives of the American Society of Newspaper Editors. The president of that organization, Wright Bryant, editor of the Atlanta Journal, invited Eisenhower to address the society at their annual meeting April 16th to 18th in Washington, the invitation taken under advisement. Eisenhower begged off on another invitation to attend the annual dinner of the Radio Correspondents Association. He told Jack Benny, the comedian who's the dinner's master of ceremonies, he's passing up night parties now to catch up on his sleep. Earl H. Gammons, the vice president of CBS, accompanied Benny to the White House. Two Washington men who had all but given up hope were rescued from a big cave near Franklin, West Virginia, after being lost underground for almost 3 days. Harry C. Breeden Jr., a 30-year-old electronics technician, said, "We didn't think we'd make it out." He and 20-year-old Kenneth Sterner, a power company meter tester, had gone without food and sleep since they started the impromptu exploring jaunt in Trout Cave about 2:30 Wednesday. They were shaken and almost frozen. The flood tide of spending rising to new high levels in the states. An Associated Press survey of the 44 state capitals where legislatures are meeting showed proposed budgets higher in 21 states, lower in 5. In the other 18 states, there's little change, or in most cases, the budget's still being prepared. Pat Ward, the prosecution's Playgirl ace in the trial of Playboy Minoy Jelke, reportedly said today she's willing to tell her story to the world, but her lawyer still insisted the trial should be closed. Her testimony would be the same whether or not General Sessions Judge Francis L. Valente rules to admit the press and public to hear her testimony on Monday. Newsmen quoted the comely 19-year-old. Her lawyer, however, issued a vehement state of denial after Miss Ward's statement was published. He asserted she was misquoted. President Eisenhower announced he would nominate Mrs. Claire Booth Luce as ambassador to Italy, and all indications were the Senate would confirm her. That would give Mrs. Luce, the granddaughter of a Baptist minister and a convert to Catholicism, the honor of being America's second women ambassador and the first to a major power. Mrs. Luce served 2 terms in the House of Representatives beginning in 1943. The glamorous blonde playwright and wife of editor-in-chief Henry Luce of the Time Life Fortunes magazines. The mass circulation Sunday Pictorial said in a front-page editorial offered as a pro-Laborite open letter that President Eisenhower's first 19 days in office had been disastrous and have caused a crisis between Britain and the United States. Senator Sparkman, the Democrat of Alabama, demanded the administration tell Congress whether it planned the naval blockade of Red China, as Senator Nolan renewed his support of such a move. Sparkman said in an interview he isn't necessarily opposed to a blockade, but he wants to know if it would be an act of war, if the U.S. should undertake it alone, and what would be the consequences of such actions. Nolan, the chairman of the Senate Republican Policy Committee, said he believes the UN should institute a blockade to halt shipments of war supplies to the communists in Korea. He added that the U.S. should do it alone if other UN nations balked. Dr. James B. Conant, new High Commissioner to West Germany, disclosed that President Eisenhower directed him to speed to Germany, where decisions critical to the defense of the Western world against communism are soon to be made. Former President Herbert Hoover entered a Miami hospital following an attack of influenza. The 78-year-old GOP stalwart appeared unusually tired, but his physician, Dr. Nicholas A. Tierney of Miami Beach, said his condition was not serious. And though some of the day's top news stories is reported in the newspapers of Sunday, February 8, 1953, on your radio, Escape. That's coming up next.
The sound you hear is a recording of the warning siren in case of an imminent nuclear attack.
If this was an actual attack warning, would you be prepared?
Would your family be prepared?
If not, CA Survive All Civil Defense approved steel and concrete basement type fallout shelter.
The shelter, along with a basic equipment kit, affords you and your family maximum protection.
Survive All shelters are FHA approved.
No money down. 5 years to pay.
Horrible though it may be, this sound may someday become a reality.
Be prepared. See a survival shelter today.
It would be a few years after this before you would hear these survival fallout shelters. Those were basically early 1960s commercials that you heard for that particular product. Let's see. Let's go on now. Dragnet aired 9:30 Eastern Time on Sunday, February 8th, 1953. Opposite it on CBS at the same time was Escape. In this episode, also from that same date, Sunday, February 8th, 1953, 72 years ago, stars Ben Wright in Jetsam.
Tired of the everyday grind? Ever dream of a life of romantic adventure? Want to get away from it all? We offer you Escape.
Escape, designed to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
You are crouched in the center of a barren room, the heat of the tropics numbing your brain, your bare hands bleeding and torn. While facing you, his giant hands reaching for you, is the brute of a man whose life depends upon his killing you.
Listen now as Escape brings you John Russell's unusual story, Jetsam.
The pub known as the Crown and Anchor was much like any of its fellow establishments along the Sydney waterfront. It was noisy and ill-lit, and always crowded with a clientele that worked hard at being boisterously happy. The liquor was cheap and potent, and quickly available. At the Crown and Anchor, there was a little something for everyone. New acquaintances, male or female, old friends to be met, and, of course, arguments. Those wonderful, time-consuming, liquor-bred arguments.
What was that again?
I said and I say again, you bloody English think you won the war yourself.
Well, that's a filthy thing to say.
Or maybe you won it yourself in your pretty little Spitfire.
Well, at least I didn't spend my time mucking about in the desert with Montgomery.
No, you don't.
You big lumbering cunt.
The fleet air-arm has just collapsed. Here, give me a hand, Alf. We'll chuck him out in the street.
And now, sitting in the waiting room of Morley & Sons solicitors, Junius Peabody couldn't remember too well everything that had happened. He remembered the Crown and Anchor, and the man with the scarred face, and waking at dawn on the cobbled street face down in the gutter, but he wasn't too clear on the reasons for it all.
Sir John will see you now, Mr. Peabody. Good morning, Junius. Sit down.
I'm sorry about not keeping our appointment the other day, Sir John.
It was almost 2 weeks ago, Junius.
Yes, I'm sorry, sir.
I wanted to see you because I've had another cable from your father.
Yes, sir?
Sent along a letter of credit, drawn in the amount of £50. From what he says in the cable, I don't think he expects you to come back to England.
But the last time I wrote, I said I'd be home. I said I'd work for him there.
Yes, I don't think that's of much interest to your father anymore. Would you care to see the cable?
No. No, thank you.
Now, he also has instructed me to advance you no more money under any consideration.
So I'm not to be a remittance man after all.
Junius, do you have any plans?
I have no plans.
Well, what about your commission?
Who can use a 35-year-old flyer, one that can't even hold a rum glass steady?
Yes, and that's something else, Junius. This drinking of yours.
This is going to be a lecture, Sir John?
Well, in a sense, yes. Now, ever since the war, you've done your best to become an alcoholic. Why?
Why does anyone drink?
Well, may I tell you why I think you do? The war. You're still fighting it. Still in a Singapore prisoner of war camp. And you were a good officer and a good pilot, I'm told. You could have gone on if you'd let yourself. Why can't you forget what's behind you? Forget what you went through. Others have.
This is a lecture, isn't it?
Well, you came to Australia at the war's end. You haven't done a lick of work since.
Now, really,
you lived as well as you could on the money your father sent out here. You've held only one position in all that time, and that you managed to keep for just 3 weeks.
I was out sick. In a hospital.
Oh, you were dead drunk in a back street house.
I was out sick.
Call it what you want. But don't use the war as an excuse for your own shortcomings.
Oh, it must be very fine to be successful and smug and righteous.
Now, Junius, listen to me for a
No,
moment.
I won't. I'm sick to teeth of men like you and my father. Preaching, moralizing. I'm tired of the lot of you. Now, if you'll be good enough to give me that letter of credit, I will get out of your office.
Now, you're talking like a child.
The letter, please.
Yeah? Junius, where are you going?
For as long as my money holds out, Sir John, I shall be at the noisiest, filthiest, and most enjoyable bar in Sydney. And that was the start of a most colossal binge for Junius Peabody. The entries were badly blurred, but he could trace himself up through Brisbane, Port Moresby, Macau. There were assorted voyages and counter-voyages, women's faces, and the cloying aroma of heavy perfumes. There was a hectic session when he and a Norwegian schooner captain hit the bank at Fantan and swore eternal friendship amid champagne baskets. And it was this same captain who landed him finally, the champagne baskets having been emptied, on a small island. And it was on this island that he found a bar where a tall, cynical white man by the name of Bendemeer cashed in the remains of the dwindling letter of credit for the last magnificent splurge. And now, weeks after leaving Sydney, Junius awoke on the wide sandy beach, watching the dawn spread over the butternut sea.
Hello. You don't happen to have a flask or anything handy about you?
Well, if I had one, it would be empty.
Shame it is. I've a notion I'm about to have the fantods.
The what?
Fantods, you know, the creepers.
Oh. Yeah. I could use a bracer myself.
I'm the Sydney Jack. Your name's Peabody.
That's right.
It wasn't half a party you gave last night at the Bendemeers.
Bendemeers? It seems to me I was thrown out of there last night. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
You was, and me, and the big Dutchman, Willems. But it was your fault. You started playing chuck farthing among his bottles with a bunch of copper spikes. I never seen a man hold his liquor worse.
Well, I paid for it, didn't I? It was my money, and heavens knows you had your share of it.
Well, Lord love you, chum, that I did. Hey, seeing as he threw us out, I suppose your credit's gone.
I imagine. Sidney?
Yes?
What is this place?
This is a beach, chum. And the island's Fufuti.
And what the devil's Fufuti?
3,000 miles from the nearest pub.
Well, I did have some cufflinks and things. I wonder what became of them.
Hey, you got any smokes left?
Oh. Here.
Thanks. Well, you're on the beach now, matey, that's for certain. And you won't like it, you won't.
Do you?
Me, I'm used to it. But look at your hands. I'll lay you never did a day's work in your life with them soft hands. You was probably a gentleman. But you're a beachcomber now, matey, a lousy beachcomber. And you needn't expect me to do no begging for you, for I won't no fear.
Junius turned and examined the features of the Sydney duck, who was hunched on the sand beside him. The prominence of the nose and upper lip, the thin pink ears, the jutting teeth that gave him the feeble ferocity of a rat. And at the same time he was conscious of himself, only in a different way. Here was Junius Peabody, washed up on the beach at the far edge of the world, like any other bit of useless jetsam, to stay and to rot.
Pretty low.
Oh, it ain't so bad. Nobody starves here, that's one thing. You can always fall in with a wedding or a birthday or something. Or maybe you come across a new chum with a bit of brass. Some flat who's willing to stand the drinks.
Like me?
Oh, there's plenty like you. The pearl fishing brings them in, you see. When they're stony like you, they usually take a job till they get a chance to get away again. That is, if they're able to do anything at all. What can you do?
That's a good question, Sidney.
Well, what can you do?
I can fly a Spitfire, and I'm a good judge of French brandy.
That's not much, is it?
Not much.
Hey, here, what's the game? Where are you going?
Going to take a swim. Have you had yours yet?
Oh, morning bath on the beach at Fufuti.
Well, you can't tell, Sidney. You might like it.
Ah, go on. Can't prove that water ever helped anybody. Aye. You really are going in.
Yes, I really am. Keep an eye on my things, Sidney.
Oh, right you are, me lord. Hope the bath ain't too cold, me lord.
Junius walked down the sand alone to the water's edge and stood looking out to where the sun sent a long, glittering path toward him across the morning sea. And he was suddenly conscious that he made an ugly figure under the clear light. He moved out into the water till it reached his knees. Then something bumped against his shin, nearly tripping him. He could see the object floating nearby. It was a rough lump of some substance, grayish-brown, the size of a boy's football. He picked it up. To the touch, it was greasy.
Sidney! Sidney Duck!
What?
Come down here to the surf a minute.
I'm close enough now. You got something to show me? Bring it here.
This was floating about in the water. I think I know what it is, but I can't quite believe it.
Think you know what is?
This. Sit up and have a look at it.
Hey, boy, the great Lord Harry. It's the stuff. Look at it. All smooth and greasy like. Oh, we ain't struck it rich nor nothing. Oh, no, not much.
But shouldn't there be an odor, a perfume?
That comes later when it's not so fresh, and anybody else would know it. Hey, what could this be but ambergris, worth nearly £2 an ounce, right here on Fufuti. Here, let me take a feel of it.
£2 an ounce.
Ambergris is right as rain, and there must be 8-10 pounds here, and half of it's mine.
What?
I say half of that's mine. Ain't I been palling along with you? Wasn't I here? It's a fair divvy. I want me half.
Your half? Nothing small about you, is there? No, my lad, this is my insurance of this island. I'll give you whatever I don't need.
Oh, now, Mr. Peabody, you wouldn't forget an old friend who came to your side when you was on the beach, would you?
Why, you dirty old windbag. You just be happy if you get anything.
Mr. Peabody, I know a gentleman like you who'll do the right thing.
Yes, well, don't you worry, Sidney. You just...
Now, lie cozy, Mr. Peabody. It's a real shame to see a gentleman like you lying all stretched out in the sand. But since you're there, I'll just relieve you of this insurance of yours. And now, I bid you a respectful good day, Mr. Peabody.
In just a moment, the second act of Escape. But first, tomorrow night at most of these same CBS radio stations, hear William Powell in a startling anti-communist drama titled The Man Who Cried Wolf on Suspense. Tomorrow night on CBS Radio. And now, back to Escape.
Why Junius Peabody hadn't been killed by the Sydney Duck's blow at the base of his skull was hard to understand. But it was only a matter of minutes later that he presented himself at Bendemere's Saloon and General Store. It was the only place Junius was known on the island of Fufuti, and Bendemere was the local authority. He was at once the best loved and the best hated individual, being police, landowner, merchant, trader, and purveyor of bad alcohol. Junius stood a moment, trying to get his breath, and then...
I've been robbed.
So?
The property of mine has been stolen.
Money? This was?
No, not money.
Then what do you care?
What do I care? What are you talking about, man?
What was this property you lost?
Well, that's not important to you. I want to know if you're going to do anything about it.
No. Why should I?
But you're the only authority on the island.
That's right. Who was the man who stole from you?
Sydney Duck.
He hit you and ran off?
Yes.
I could help you, but I won't.
What?
I've seen too many of your kind here on the beach. Drift stuff that gets washed in. You're not worth it.
All right, I'll do this myself since you won't help.
Where are you going?
I don't know, but this island isn't so big I can't find the Sydney Duck.
You go alone to retake this property of yours?
Since I must, yes.
You're a fool. They'll probably kill you.
Well, they'll probably... They?
Those that live at Tenbo Head, that's where the Sydney Duck will be now. That's where they all go when they must hide because of some minor lawlessness.
The Sydney Duck has something of mine, and I'm going to get it back. And when I do, I'll be in to see you to talk business.
I still think you're a fool.
Bendemeer, last night you cashed in the last of my letter of credit.
That's right.
You were glad enough to help me then.
You had money.
That's the only drive you have? Money?
It's the biggest. But let me tell you more. I don't mind helping a man who's worth something, a man who wants to help himself, but you... I know you're kind. You're filled with rum and useless. You're Jetsam. You always will be.
You're very sure, aren't you?
I know you're kind, pitying yourself, thinking no one understands you or your problems, so you swill in rum in order to hide. You always will.
I'm going out to Tenbo Head, and I'll be back.
I'll give you a drink if you get back.
It took the better part of 2 hours for Junius to work his way over the lava cliffs and crevices, knife-like and treacherous, to Tenbo Head, or what was better known as the Rocks. And here, his fingernails bleeding, his clothes torn, Junius finally found the Sydney Duck and Willems. They were seated on a small ledge, half hidden by pandanus leaves, overlooking the blue Pacific 30 feet below. Between the hulking German and the little Sydney Duck, was the prize. His prize. The gray-brown ball, now enclosed in a torn fishnet. Empty-handed, there was no way to take the ambergris from the two of them. Junius crouched low behind the foliage, thinking. And then a plan came to mind, so simple that Junius smiled. With a rush, he cleared the foliage and, stooping, clutched the filled net with one hand. Then, before the two startled men could more than cry out, he dove into the ocean 30 feet below.
Vandermeer!
Coming. I was out in the storeroom and Peabody.
That's right. I'm back.
Yes, so I see. But not in good condition.
It'll do. You needn't stare. I'm a paying customer now.
As how?
Ambergris. My property. Over 10 pounds of it.
What? Was it this the Sydney Duck robbed you of?
That's right.
And you went out to the rocks to get it back from him yourself?
From them. Willems, the German, was with him.
By yourself? You did this?
Look, there's the stuff. Now about that business proposition.
Concerning this?
Right.
How much do you want for it?
1,000 silver dollars or 2,000 shillings.
I don't have that much about me. Suppose we say a standing credit for 1,000 drinks instead.
I want money, not liquor.
It amounts to the same thing. By the time you drunk yourself to death, I'd simply have the money back again.
No, it doesn't, because I'm going to leave this island. And to do that, I need money. So let's talk business, Bendermere.
Not yours to sell, you ruddy thief.
What?
Mr. Benamy, this man here, this Peabody robbed me and my partner Williams of that what's lying on your counter there. And if you want to do business, it should be with Williams and me.
Yeah, that's right. That's ours. Now, what you give us?
I've been told it's not yours.
Sydney, you're a lying little cheat. You know that's mine. I found it.
That belongs to the Sydney Duck.
That's a lie.
Don't tell me
I'll buy it. All of you.
Oh, Mr. Benamy, after all, it's our word against his, and they're two of us.
But what if two of you are lying? How do you suggest it be settled?
Fight for it.
Yeah, fine. We'll go outside, the three of us, and whoever comes back in, it's rightly theirs.
Yeah, good.
The minute I set foot outside that door, you'd have a knife in my back.
Oh, you don't sound as brave as you did before, Mr. Peabody.
Not against the two of them. I'm not a fool, that's all.
Against one, perhaps.
Villains?
Why not? After all, you could kill Sydney with one blow.
You must hate people.
Just weaklings.
All right, I'll fight. And if I win?
I'll buy from you. Sydney, sit down in that chair where I can keep an eye on you.
Yes, all right. Now give it to him proper, Williams.
There are no rules. Go ahead.
You're big and stupid, Willems.
Now that's enough for you, no? Will you ausstellen einmal mehr, Kleinchen, einmal mehr. Nein, genug.
And so, you see, it is easily settled. Sydney Duck.
Yes?
Get your friend out of here. I have business to discuss with Mr. Peabody. You feel better now that you are bathed and whole again, huh?
Now, let's get on with it. I want money for this stuff. I want to leave this place as soon as possible.
You can only get off this island when and how I allow you. You see, mine is the only boat, the Likely Jane. You can see her through the window there. A brandy.
I had my final drink in this place last night when you threw me out.
Sure?
Quite.
Well, just in case. Now, let me suggest my plan. The island of Nukava, which I own, is well planted with coconut crop. However, Nukava is on the edge of the earth, the farthest corner, and the loneliest, and the driest. There are 12 Kanaka boys there, but I need an agent, someone I can trust.
Why do you tell me?
A white man could live there if he wanted to, and if he were fit to live at all. Of course, once he was there, he'd be stuck for a year on a coral gridiron. There's not a drop of anything to drink, save water, and that is brackish.
Look, Bendemeer, what about this ambergris? I've got more than 10 pounds of it. Will you buy it?
You can't very well take it anywhere else if I wouldn't buy it. Can you? Now, I'll make you an offer. I'll buy this lump of stuff from you, and I'll buy it either two ways. I'll give you a half interest in Nukava, and you go there at once to take charge as agent, or else here is the first of your brandy, and I'll keep you perpetually drunk as long as you last.
Nukava.
Once you're there, Peabody, there's no escape. You'll sit and fry.
What for? Why do you offer me a choice like this?
Because it amuses me. Because I please. Because... I know what you'll do.
Yes?
I've been watching men of your sort all my life. And I know just what they're worth. Drift on beaches, scraps, trash, jetsam, regeneration, rot and drivel. You can't save yourself any more than you could lift yourself by your own bootstraps. It suits me to prove you this way.
There's your stinking brandy on the floor to say that you're wrong, Bendemeer. You lose.
Oh, so?
Yes. I'll go to Nukava.
As my agent?
Yes.
You'll stay and run the island for a year?
Yes, if only to prove there are some scraps thrown on the beach that are worth something.
So I see. So I see. The likely Jane will sail within an hour.
Yes, I'll be aboard.
An hour or so later, as Bendemeer watched the likely Jane set a course for Nukava, there was a smile on the face of that remarkable man, curiously unlike that of a loser's chagrin. He was still smiling as he went back to his storeroom to put the place to rights. There was a clutter of odds and ends of cargo from one of his surf boats, which had upset the day before while hauling cargo out to his schooner. Most of it had been salvaged by his Kanaka boys along the shore. But a certain tub containing tallow had lost a part of its contents. However, he was able now to restore the missing tallow, a large lump, weighing perhaps 10 pounds or so.
Under the direction of Norman MacDonald, Escape has brought you Jetsam by John Russell, adapted by Norman MacDonald and starring Ben Wright. Featured in the cast were John Daner as Bendemeer, Lawrence Dobkin as Sir John, and Charlie Lung as the Sydney Duck. The narrator was Edgar Barrier. Editorial supervision is by John Meston, and the special music for Escape is composed and conducted by Leith Stevens. Next week.
You are standing in inky blackness, looking up a long flight of stairs, at the top of which lurks something unbelievably evil, while in the moving shadows behind you, coming closer to you, is the shadowy figure of something that could only come from a nightmare.
So listen next week when Escape brings you Anthony Ellis's terrifying story, I Saw Myself Running. on CBS Radio, hear Robert Q. Lewis filling in for Arthur Godfrey, who's off on an Air Force mission. On House Party, another of our Monday through Friday mainstays here on CBS Radio, popular Art Linkletter holds the reins. Don't miss them tomorrow on most of these same CBS radio stations. This is Roy Rowan speaking. America now listens to 105 million radio sets and listens most to the CBS Radio Network.
Airing directly opposite Dragnet on Sunday, February 8th, 1953, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Escape here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. And one other show that we're going to bring you from this date is going to be up next. We'll go back to NBC, and earlier in the day, 4 o'clock Eastern Time, February 8th, 1953, program entitled The Chase.
During a national emergency, you may have to be your own fireman. Take the first step now. Remove all fire hazards in your home. Eliminate clutter. Store flammables in a safe place.
And just a reminder, you can find these links to some of this stuff here, the civil defense information, the shelter information, even about survival. You can find it in the show notes of the podcast, or if you don't want to do that, you can go to classicradio.stream. You can find it all there. That's at classicradio.stream. You can also support us there. We have a number of items for purchase there, and we get a little bit of that. Or if you just want to make a donation, you can do that there by using the Buy Me a Coffee function at classicradio.stream. Okay, our final show from this feature date, Sunday, February 8th, 1953, 72 years ago, an NBC show that aired at 4 o'clock Eastern Time over much of the network. This is entitled The Chase and the Penny Pinching Landlord.
The National Broadcasting Company invites you by transcription to join The Chase. There is always the hunter and the hunted, the pursuer and the pursued. It may be the voice of authority, or a race with death and destruction, the most relentless of the hunters. There are times when laughter is heard as counterpoint, and moments when sheer terror is the theme. But always there is the chase. For some people, there is only one chase and no other exists. The chase to secure and hold money. Nothing else matters. There is no love except for pennies, dimes, and dollars, and only hate for those who would deprive them of it. Hear those footsteps? A man running down a street in a cheap section of a city just after nightfall. Watch him. He's leading us to just such people. He darts across a narrow street without looking. He comes to the intersection of a street and alley just as a car turns the corner.
Hey, you hit him. How bad?
He's dead. Well, what are we going to do?
Do? Get out of here. Drag him in that alley.
Yeah, but he's dead. That's hit and run. We ought to do
You hurt me. Drag him in that alley. Let's get out of here.
Yes, the man lying dead in the alley marked the beginning of a story. A very important story to Mr. and Mrs. Crockey, Albert and Carolyn, two lovely people who run a boarding house a few blocks away. It's a vital story to them because it involves money. And anything that involves money is more important than life itself to Mr. and Mrs. Crockey.
And another thing, Albert, you got to go up and see Mr. Sedgwick right this minute because he ain't paid his rent for next week. He's a new boarder. And it's best that we show him right off that we ain't going to put up with back rent.
Well, it'd be a lot better if we get that Mr. Sedgwick out of here. I don't like the looks of him. Besides, he burns the electric a lot at night.
Oh, it's getting so two honest people ain't able to run a decent, respectable place no more. Well, anyhow, you go right up and see that Mr. Sedgwick. It ain't right.
Who's there?
Your star boarder, Mr. Campion.
All right.
Good evening, Albert. Carolyn.
You ain't to call us by our first names. I told you that.
Oh, merely a friendly gesture on my part, Mr. Crockey. But I did not descend into these charming quarters of yours to discuss the amenities of nomenclature.
Now, stop that fancy talk. And don't bring that cigarette in here. You ain't been smoking in bed.
No, but, it's an idea. At least the feeble glow would provide more light than the ceiling fixture.
Oh, you complaining again? Now, you look here, Mr. Uppity Campion. You're getting a good room at a reasonable rent. There ain't many boarding houses in the city where you could go and...
No, you're perfectly right. There aren't many boarding houses in the city where the boarders have to race home at night to make sure they can get their own evening paper. Or where the owners get up at 4 a.m. to steal the cream off the top of the milk.
Are you calling us thieves?
No, I don't think so, Mrs. Crockey. I'd have to qualify that. Sneak thieves, I should say.
You?
Oh, now, stop it. Let's don't argue about it. Well, now, what about the hot plate in my room?
What's the matter with it?
Well, it belies its name, Mr. Crockey. It is no longer a hot plate. It has become a refrigerator.
You broke it.
In the passage of time, sweet Carolyn, mechanical and electrical appliances do get out of order.
But we can't get parts, Mr. Campion.
All right. Let's go on to something else. The bedspread, for example. It's become one of the most exciting games I've ever played to find a spot in the spread free from holes. It embarrasses me when I have guests.
Oh, we can't afford a new one, Mr. Campion.
All right. We shall forget the bedspread and take up the subject of the ceiling fixture.
That ain't broke.
Well, no, not exactly. But it certainly is eccentric. It goes on and off, Mr. Crockey, like a lighthouse. No human hand touches it, and yet it flashes ambitiously, energetically.
You keep finding fault with everything.
Oh, but I'm not alone, friend Crockey. I am not alone. I heard Miss Barton complaining earlier tonight about her sink.
It's her fault. She combs her hair over it, and the hair falls in and blocks the drain.
Yes, but... Oh, I give up. Such slippery and adroit excuse-making is beyond my power of refutation.
What?
Nothing at all. Well, now that I've registered my complaint, I shall retire to the damp chill of the crypt I occupy, and for which I pay $68 a month.
If you don't like it, you can get out.
Well, that, Mrs. Crockey, is a line which becomes you so well. Good night.
Young puppy. For 2 cents,
2 cents? Such extravagance, Mr. Crockey, and from you, of all people. Good night.
Well, Albert, as soon as we can. We'll put him out.
No, Carolyn. It might be hard to rent that room. Yeah, he does pay regular.
Well.
Hmm.
Oh.
Hmm?
Mr. Sedgwick.
Huh?
You go right on up there and get the money for Mr. Sedgwick.
Oh, Carolyn. Now, maybe he'll bring it down. The night ain't over yet.
You're scared of him.
And I don't like the way he looks at me.
We'll both go.
Huh? All right.
There goes that Miss Barson. Run the water again to wash her hair. Miss Barton, you close off that water good. And don't use too much.
There. She knows all right. Her being a day behind with the rent.
Mr. Sedgwick?
Mr. Sedgwick?
Your lovely knuckles, Carolyn. You'll skin them.
You shut up.
Or wouldn't you rather I told you that Mr. Sedgwick went out?
How do you know?
I saw him leave his room and go out the front door some time ago. Now go away and stop pounding. I have work to do.
I'd like to slap that smart alecky Mr. Campion's face for him.
Now, never mind, Carolyn. Let's go for our walk.
Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Crockett. You are a remarkable couple. You do take the cream from the milk, and you do read the newspapers before the boarders get home to save a couple of pennies. And now you go for your walk. Oh, not for exercise, though. It's to save electric light bills. Every night it's the same. Down the same street, past the warehouse, over to the brewery and along the street running through the wholesale district until you finally get sleepy and turn homeward.
Albert, if that smart Mr. Campion tells you that he ain't using electric light in that lamp he bought, he's lying.
If you just catch him at it. He's got enough light in his room. He don't need no more lamps. It's costing us money to put up with him.
That's right, Albert. Oh, money. We always got troubles.
Wait a minute.
It's a man laying there.
Yeah.
Drunk, most likely.
That's right. Honest people have to slave for their money. Something no good like this drinks it up.
I don't smell no liquor.
Maybe. I'm going to look closer.
Keep away from him, Albert. Maybe it's a trap. He might be a hold-up man.
Carolyn. It's Mr. Sedgwick. It is, look.
What's the matter with him?
He's dead.
Albert.
Looks like maybe he got hit by an auto.
What's that?
His pocket. It's stuffed with money.
And him owing us rent.
Look, Carolyn. It's so much.
Albert. What do you suppose?
Ain't nobody in sight.
It's so much money.
Like as not, he come by it bad.
I never did like the way he looked. Like one of them gangsters.
He wouldn't do no good with it.
He owes us rent. It's his kind that would spend it on some chorus girl.
You and me, we...
Albert, you gonna do it? Or ain't you?
Well, there ain't nobody watching. Ain't nobody saw him before us either, or there wouldn't be no money.
Albert.
No, Carolyn, come on. I got it.
So you've taken the money from Mr. Sedgwick, Albert and Carolyn. But look, isn't someone behind you? Faster. Walk faster. Just a shadow, wasn't it? But you didn't know that, Mr. and Mrs. Crockett. That money is heavy in your pocket, isn't it, Albert? Faster now, both of you. Hurry home to hide the money in the mattress. Yes, in the mattress with the rest of your miser's hoard. But faster again. The memory of Mr. Sedgwick lying back there is pursuing you, and you've got to get away. Faster now. Faster.
Oh, Carol.
Lock the door. You didn't lose it. Did you, Albert?
No, I got it right here.
The entire room now. Put it in the mattress.
Well.
Mr. Campion.
Back early, aren't you? Were you expecting someone else?
No, I wasn't.
Well, what have you been doing? Running?
No. Why should we be running?
Well, I don't know. You might have heard the nickel I dropped upstairs and were chasing each other to see who'd get it.
You ain't funny, Mr. Campion.
I wasn't trying to be funny, Albert.
Oh, you shut up.
Well, what's the matter with you two?
Mr. Crockett ain't feeling good.
As a matter of fact, he does look a little pale around the gills. Someone's been chasing you.
No, nobody chased
Why did you ask that?
Well, from the way you dashed in here, I thought perhaps you'd robbed a bank or something.
We're honest people.
To a certain extent, yes.
Are you calling us thieves again?
I explained that once before tonight. But you two certainly do look excited. The only thing that could bring a flush to your careworn cheeks would be money. Perhaps left by a rich uncle.
You ain't got any uncle.
And that ain't no way to talk, Mr. Campion.
Okay, we'll forget it. I'm going for a walk.
A walk?
Oh, sure. Why not? Ceiling fixture gave up the ghost altogether a few minutes ago. I can't work anymore.
Which way are you walking?
Well, does that make any difference?
Of course not, but it's damp out.
Might catch a chill.
You know, your solicitude is amazing. Can this be the Crockies? The same people who all through the winter dole out heat by fractions of degrees?
Mr. Campion, that ceiling fixture, I got some wire. Maybe we could fix it.
Tell me, is your name by any chance Scrooge?
Who?
What Marley's ghost accosted you along the way and forced you into a recognition of the error of your way?
Huh?
In other words, what the devil happened outside?
Nothing. You want that light fixed, do you?
Well, unless I'm to become a mole, light would be welcome, yes.
Then you go right along with Mr. Crockett, Mr. Campion.
Aha.
What's the matter?
I see.
See what?
Mr. Crockett has
What have I got?
The wire to fix the ceiling fixtures. And if I help him, it saves the electrician's fee for you.
You're always poking fun at us.
Oh, no, Mrs. Crockett. No, indeed. But, come along, Albert. You and I shall play Steinmetz to the ceiling fixture. Oh, and Mrs. Crockett.
Huh?
I should still like to know what encounter brought you two home before sleep deadened your elfin steps and dulled those brilliant minds.
You coming, Mr. Campion?
Certainly, Mr. Crockett.
Albert. You better leave that package with me.
Oh, I forgot.
Package?
Albert, give it to me.
I'm going to leave you alone with it. Mr. Campion.
Yes, Albert.
There's wire and stuff in the cellar. Now, you get it yourself. Here. Here's the key to the basement.
Oh, no. Wonder of wonders. The key to the Crockett cellar. And shall I find vintage 1902? Or perhaps the skeletons of former boarders?
You fixed a light, Mr. Campion. If there's anything you need, you can buy it tomorrow. We'll pay you for it.
Numb. Absolutely numb I am. This is the epitome of surprise. The key to the cellar, an offer of payment by the Crockies, all in one evening. Oh, I shall certainly write this to Mr. Ripley. Nay, I shall insist upon another time capsule sunk into the ground to record this event for posterity.
You're going to fix it or not?
Oh, certainly. Tomorrow may see the Crockies back in usual form. Therefore, tonight I shall gather the golden fruits of whatever occasioned this munificent behavior.
Callan, you're a fool. You mentioned package. package, and it ain't in the package.
I want to see how much is there.
We could have counted it later.
How do I know that you wouldn't have took some for yourself?
Oh, you shut up. Come on. We'll count it in our room.
So you count the money, Mr. and Mrs. Crockett. And how much is there? 100? Keep counting. 300? Oh, much more. 507? 1,000? Keep counting. Perspiration is beating your foreheads. Your hands are damp. The bills stick to your fingers. Now you reach 2,000. They're all hundreds. 100 on each bill. 2,000, 3,500, and you're not through yet. Keep counting. Your breath hot, your eyes glazed with greed. Now you're finished counting.
$5,000.
We found it. We just found it. We went for a walk. We found it.
Not so loud. You'll wake everybody.
We're rich. Cedric gets run over by a hit-and-run driver, and we get his money. We're rich.
Who's there?
Campion. Is anything wrong?
No, there's nothing the matter.
But I thought I heard Mrs. Crockett.
Did you fix the light?
Oh, yes. Wait a minute. I got the key to the cellar.
Put it under the door.
Put it under the door.
Quiet. Just shove it under.
Okay, but are you sure there's nothing wrong?
Just go to bed.
Well, I'm going out for a walk. If anyone calls, I'll be back in half an hour.
But he can't go. Maybe you go the way we did and you'll see him.
Did you hear me?
Sure. Mr. Campion.
Yes?
It's awful chilly out.
Well, if you'll observe closely, I'm the possessor of an overcoat and a rather serviceable Benny, which...
Wouldn't you like a nice cup of tea?
I beg your pardon.
You like tea, don't you, Mr. Campion?
I don't understand.
And tomorrow we can pick up a second-hand hot plate for you.
Yeah, sure. We'll get you a new one.
Mr. and Mrs. Crockett, please, take a very close look at me. My name is Campion. I have been living here for 6 months, during which time you must have seen that I am not affluent in any way. I have no influence with the governor. I know no politicians. I know no statesmen. What little money I have, I spend for bare necessities. In short, Albert, Carolyn, why are you spreading this soft soap with such a lavish hand?
Well, we're willing to let bygones be bygones.
Oh? Well, thank you very much for the offer of tea, but I shall take a walk just the same.
He'll go the way we did. I know he will.
Forget it. Now close the door. Now, what if he does? All he'll see is that Sedgwick lay in the alley. We didn't kill him. Anybody could see it was an Otto that done it. And Campion can't know about the money he had. Sedgwick was only here a few days.
But we gotta hide it. In case.
In the mattress with the rest.
Oh, we ain't got time. What if Mr. Campion does know about the money? What if he sees Mr. Sedgwick and he comes back here? We ain't got time to open the mattress and close it again.
And the mattress is the best place. All our money has always been safe in the mattress.
No time. Put it in the fireplace until tomorrow morning.
Then what?
Well, when the bank's open, you go clear over to the other side of town. If it's a nice day, you can walk. Change one of the big bills into littler ones.
You're crazy. What good's that going to do?
You'll see. Now listen. And then go to another bank and put the little bills in the bank account.
Oh, we ain't got none.
You can open one. Maybe do the same thing for a week until all the money is out of here. There ain't nobody knows us on the other side of town.
Yeah. I see. That's a good idea.
And then when we're good and sure that nobody else knows about the money,
Uh-huh.
we can take it out of the banks and bring it back here.
That's smart. Pretty smart, Carolyn. I bet even Mr. Smarty Pants Campion couldn't think of nothing like that.
That's a splendid idea, Albert and Carolyn. You sigh with relief and settle to sleep, which you can't. Then it's morning. You leave the house, Albert. In your pocket is $100 bill. You start for a bank across town, a bank where no one knows you. You reach the bank, give the bill to one of the tellers. He looks at you, hard. Is there some suspicion in his glances? Is there, Albert? But he changes the bill and you hurry out. You start for another bank, blocks away. But before you get there, a newspaper headline catches your eye. You can't read it all, but 2 words make you start and turn pale. Bank robbery. You read as much as you can, but your lifelong miserliness doesn't let you spend a nickel for that paper. One phrase strikes your eye, marked money. Now you hurry home. The other bank is forgotten. You should take a taxi, but you don't think of it, even though 5s and 10s are clutched in your pocket, the dampness from your hand making them a pulpy mess. Now you're home. Safe.
Crocky!
I can't stop now, Mr. Campion.
Okay, so you can't stop, but don't you want to know why this policeman is here?
Policeman? Where?
Using the phone down the hall. It seems our good friend, Mr. Sedgwick, has some shady dealings.
Sedgwick?
Well, yes, you see...
I gotta go to Carolyn. I went out to get some medicine.
Well, the law will wait, Mr. Crocky. The law will wait.
Carolyn!
Is the policeman gone, Albert?
No, he ain't.
I saw him coming down the street while I was looking out the window for you. I didn't say nothing. Then I heard the policeman and Mr. Campion talking.
Now, you tell me what they were saying.
I couldn't hear it good. I put my ear up against the door. But I couldn't hear nothing but low talk.
Money. That's what he's here for. That's what he's here for. Where's the rest of it?
Still in the fireplace. I'll get it. Are they going to arrest us, Albert? Oh, are they going to arrest us for taking the money from Sedgwick?
Newspaper said it was marked. The bandit took marked money from the bank. The serial numbers was all wrote down. That Mr. Sedgwick must have stole it. Now we got it.
Oh, we got to give it back. Here, take it.
You're crazy. Then we got to admit we took it off Sedgwick. Sedgwick, he was a crook. We got to get rid of this money.
Albert, what are you doing?
Burning it.
Oh!
Let go of my arm. Let go of my arm. The teller at the bank. He looked funny at me. He must have called the police when I left the bank.
You're burning
now
it.
you
You're
shut up.
burning it. It's all burning.
Shut up.
Albert, you didn't have to hit me. You didn't have to hit me.
Quiet. Now, that's the policeman. You keep him away. Money's nearly gone, and he can come in. Go ahead. And don't stand there like a fish. Go ahead.
Who is it?
Campion with a stout minion of the law. Name of,
Sergeant McCarthy.
He says his name is McCarthy.
Just a couple of seconds more. Just a couple of seconds.
I ain't dressed.
Oh, come, Mrs. Crocky. It's after 10. You were up early this morning. I heard you.
It's done, Carolyn. Now you can let him in.
Well, Albert and Carolyn, your chase is won, isn't it? You thought it was your lucky night that your good friend Mr. Sedgwick lying dead in the alley would turn out to be a profitable investment after all. You thought you'd be able to stuff his money into your mattress with the rest of your hoard, didn't you? But there were too many strings attached to that $5,000. That's why you're relieved now as you watch the last of it smolder in the grate as the door opens to admit Sergeant McCarthy and Mr. Campion.
Well, what is it, officer? What about Mr. Sedgwick?
Well, when we found his body lying there in the alley, we had to find out where he was staying. That's why I'm here. Now, you say he's been living here, eh?
Only for 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know nothing about him.
Well, of course, honest folks wouldn't. He had a record a yard long and more aliases than you could shake a stick at.
As soon as I read about the bank robbery, I said to Carolyn, that Sedgwick is the kind of man who looks like a robber.
Sedgwick, a bank robber? Is that right, Sergeant?
Oh, Lord, no, Mr. Campion. Small stuff was Sedgwick's line, sneak thieving. Why, he'd sneak little stuff out of hotel rooms in boarding houses.
Say, is there anything missing from here? Trinkets or some cash, eh?
No, nothing we know of.
Ah, good, good. No, Sedgwick was no bank robber. Besides, the bank robbery you read about is all cleared up. All the money's recovered.
No, that's not right.
Well, it's all in the morning papers.
But Crocky's never buy newspapers, Sergeant McCarthy. Papers cost a whole nickel.
Sedgwick had $5,000.
$5,000?
Well, how do you know?
He had it, we know.
Not a penny on him when we found him.
You say that he robbed hotels and boarding houses?
Yes.
Albert, Carolyn, did you by any chance keep money in your room here? Well, now, did you?
The mattress! Here, the mattress! It's been slit open! Our savings, our own money, it's gone!
You burned our money! Oh, you fool, you burned our own money! Our own! Sedgwick stole our money! We got it back just by luck! But you burned it. You burned our own money. All our savings. All those years of scrimping and saving, and you burned it. Our own money.
In the animal world, there is the hunter and the hunted, hound and fox, hawk and sparrow, chicken and worm. But who is to judge precisely which is the pursuer or the pursued as we enter the chase? The Chase was created for the National Broadcasting Company by Lawrence Cleave. This story was by Russell Hughes. Heard in the cast were Virginia Payne, Arnold Moss, Martin Rudy, and Louis Van Ruten. The Chase is directed and transcribed by Fred Way. Fred Collins speaking. Next week, greed and avarice join the pursuit for a hidden fortune when you listen to The $1 Million Chase.
4 o'clock Eastern Time, February 8th, 1953, 72 years ago today, The Chase, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, and that wraps up our look at Sunday, February 8th, 1953. Coming up on our Sunday Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we'll have episodes of The FBI in Peace and War, John Daner as the Frontier Gentleman, Mr. Keen, Tracer of Lost Persons, starring Bennett Kilpack, Lights Out, and We Dug It Up from 82 years ago, and from 83 years ago, an episode of Superman. But up next, another criminal enterprise, one handled by one Harry Lime.
Civil defense is common sense. This is Fred McMurray. Home shelters can be built for as little as $100. Simple plans for building inexpensive home shelters are available free from your Civil Defense office. Ask for a copy of the Family Fallout Shelter booklet.
Up next here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we go back 73 years, to February 6, 1952. Orson Welles in the Harry Allen Towers produced The Lives of Harry Lime. This episode entitled The Earl on Troubled Waters.
Presenting Orson Welles as the Third Man. The Lives of Harry Lime, the fabulous stories of the immortal character originally created in the motion picture The Third Man, with zither music by Anton Karas.
The single most pernicious influence on the growing English boy is the shocking behavior portrayed in the American cinematograph.
To which at one time I would have added a hearty amen. Except that I was forced to admit soon afterwards that the luckiest thing that ever happened to yours truly, Harry Lime, was this same influence of the American cinematograph on one growing English boy. Both these statements were proven for me in an adventure which, if you will forgive me, I shall call the Earl on Troubled Waters.
And now, Orson Welles as Harry Lime, the third man in today's story, The Earl on Troubled Waters.
Not so very long ago, I was sipping a rather dubious Pernod in a rather dubious London cafe with a rather dubious British character of the sort known locally as a spiv. This particular spiv was using time the name of Robinson, I imagine, because he hoped that there was virtue in the number of his compatriots who bore the same moniker. He had no other pretensions to virtue. Why was I there? Well, I was there because he had asked me to be, and because I had nothing better to do. He was the sort of man who managed to sound conspiratorial even when he was asking you something like...
Care for another Pernod?
Well, leaving my own preferences to one side, Robinson, I have my digestive system to consider. For better or worse, it's my only digestive system. I'd rather not make an enemy of it.
All right. No need to make a speech. I suppose you want me to get down to business, eh?
You mean to tell me, old man, that you have some business which you seriously think would be of interest to me?
You're interested in making money, I don't doubt.
Say on, friend of my middle years.
I thought that'd make you prick up your ears. Well, no, it's like this. See? Quite a bit of it. And I want to get it out of the country.
Pounds or dollars?
It's dollars. A lot of them. I pulled off a good caper, I did. It's enough for a pair of fine nest eggs, Harry, but
you can't get it out of the country because you're scared, and with every good reason, that the customs people be looking for you, am I right? Right. So you can't smuggle it out yourself. You have a problem, old man. Who's going to smuggle it out for you?
Why not you?
How much money's involved, old man?
30,000 American dollars.
Even if the deal were a 50-50 split, I'm not sure it's worth it, old man. It's too risky.
And they told me that you were game for anything. Ta! Palm himself off as anybody, they said. Take any risk. Slickest rascal this side of old Ned himself. That's what they told me.
Oh, yes. How they do go on.
Said you could outwit anybody, they did. Why? See that pair of your countrymen over there sitting in that corner?
Oh, fine substantial citizens, aren't they?
They're gulls if ever I saw one. Innocents, both of them. But I bet even they could see through you.
You bet? What would I have to do?
I'm calling your bluff, Harry Lime. But I don't believe you're ready or able to do any of the things they say you can. My wager is 5,000 American dollars. You can't even convince those two Americans you're an Englishman.
Old man, I'd bet you I could walk on water if it weren't cheaper to pay my penny and cross on the ferry.
Yeah. Can't smuggle. No sportsman won't take my wager. I'm going off to look for a man.
Now, wait a bit now. Let's see what we've got. You'll pay me 10 grand to smuggle your 30 grand out of the country, and you'll bet me 5 grand I can't pull the wool over the eyes of Mr. and Mrs. J. American Chump sitting over there, all right?
Well, no, of course I...
Done's done, old man. I'll take your bet and smuggle your money all at once. I'll even make him think I'm nobility just to make the cheese more binding. Where's your money? Got it with you?
Yes, but...
Hand it over under the table. Under the table. That should be a familiar method for you. Come on, quick. My couple's getting ready to go.
Will you turn it back to me?
In France. It's all there, this package?
Yes.
Run along now, old man. Doesn't do my reputation any good to be seen in public with you. As of this instant, old man, I'm guarding the reputation of the Earl of Linchester.
Who's that?
Me, old man, me. I pocketed Robinson's package after sneaking a quick look, and sure enough, they were American dollars, quite a few bills, and each of them of a large, coarse denomination. Then, to follow my 2 American tourists to their hotel, estimate when they'd be coming down to the lobby, and bribe a page boy to help me in my little masquerade was, for me, the work of an instant. My 2 innocents showed up conveniently just a short time before the dinner hour. It was child's play to catch the page boy's eye, make sure he was ready for my prearranged signal to him, and then
bump, as if by accident, into the American.
I beg your pardon, sir.
Not at all, not at all. It's entirely my fault. Can't think why I was so clumsy. Did I hurt your foot?
No, really, it's quite all right, thank you.
You're American, aren't you?
Come, dear.
That's right, I'm from Texas.
Texas? Well, fancy that.
George, I think we better.
I thought that you were maybe an American, too, sir.
As a matter of fact, I was raised in Australia, Mr.
Perkins.
Perkins.
George Perkins.
How do you do?
This is Mrs. Perkins. Mr.
Do you do, Mrs. Linchester is my name. How do you do, Mrs. Perkins?
Fine, thank you, Mr. Linchester. George, hadn't we better?
Well, I'm constantly being mistaken, you know, for an American, Mr. Perkins. Let me hasten to say I consider it a compliment, I suppose, because of my neckties.
Lord Linchester.
The fact is, I am by accident of birth a loyal subject of Her Majesty the Queen.
Well, that's...
boy, were you calling Linchester?
Yes, sir.
I'm Linchester.
Message from Lady Linchester, sir. She phoned to say she shan't be able to meet you for dinner after all, and for you to go ahead and meet her later.
Oh, thank you very much. Here you are, my boy.
Thank you, Lord Linchester.
Right, all right.
Well, I guess you're not an American for sure.
And just imagine me calling you Mr. Linchester. Oh, really, I'm so embarrassed.
Please. Actually, I sometimes feel like an imposter myself. I've only been Earl of Linchester a very short time, you know.
Oh?
Yes, I came into the title quite recently. Now, look here, Mrs. Perkins, there's really no cause for embarrassment. It makes you feel any better. I'll apologize for being an Earl in the first place. And now then, in the second place, I've just been stood up by my wife, so if you're not in a hurry to be off somewhere, perhaps you'll let me stand you to a drink.
Oh, it's really not necessary.
Just until I hear Mrs. Perkins say she's no longer embarrassed. Huh? How about it? You'll come to Claridge's with me? Of course you will. Come along, then. We can have a drink to all those hands across the sea. I stirred them into the lounge at Claridge's, got them seated, dropped a few illustrious names they might have heard of and apparently had, stuffed 2 or 3 drinks down their not at all reluctant gullets, and I had them all sweetly primed for the next stage.
Oh, my, this has been so nice of you, Lord Linchester.
It surely has indeed.
Imagine, George, our having met a real honest-to-goodness Earl. I know this must sound foolish to you, Lord Linchester, but it's truly a thrill.
Well, I just wish my having the title was as unmixed a blessing as you might think, Mrs. Perkins.
Well, I think it would be just heavenly.
Mrs. Perkins, if you want the truth, being an English nobleman these days is a mug's game. The government here in England, well, sometimes it seems that they're trying to penalize a man for investing his money soundly. Why, right now I'm in touch with a scheme to make some money. Big money, too. But I can't.
Well, what's the scheme, Lord Linchester? I mean, if I do say so myself, I got a pretty good business head on my shoulders.
Mr. Perkins, I'm sorry. I'd like to tell you about it. Frank, I'd like to have your advice on it. But there are others involved in it, and I've agreed to keep it quiet. Matter of fact, I'm afraid I shan't have a chance to profit by it myself.
Well, why not?
Well, you see, it involves a foreign investment. As you know, it's pretty difficult to get one's money out of the country.
You can't smuggle it out?
Well, not a chance, I'm afraid. You see, British customs people pay special attention to people with reputations like to men in my position.
If I could be of any help...
It's awfully good of you, sir, but I wouldn't dream of it.
Why not? First place, we're permitted to take 15,000 American dollars out. We came in with that much. And in second place, no reason for anyone to examine our luggage.
Yes,
George, I don't think...
Quiet, dear.
No, but really, I don't think
now,
I could...
Please, I'd be honored, sir. And, of course, if you see fit to let me know anything of the investment once we get to France...
Yes, well, it might work.
George, are you sure we...
Quiet, dear. Why won't it work? How much is involved?
30,000 American dollars.
Okay, that's fine. You get it to me. We were planning to take the Channel boat from Dover to Calais next Wednesday anyway.
Well, if you insist, old man, I'll book passage on the same Channel boat. Wednesday, we went down to the train together. I slipped my chump a package of $31,000 bills. He hid them away without any sign of nervousness. And in the customs shed, I waited my turn under the letter L. Perkins came over once to chat. He had to elbow a 12-year-old kid out of the way.
Well, I'll see you aboard the boat then, Lord Linchester.
Righto.
Don't you worry about anything.
All right, thanks again, old man. Oh, look, little boy. Is there any better place to stand than under everybody's feet?
Come, Ronald, stay close to our uncle now.
In a minute.
Now, go on, Ronald, or whatever your name is. Didn't you hear your governess calling? I was just going to speak to this loathsome child again when all of a sudden I saw Robinson coming up to where I was standing.
Under control?
Now, listen, old man.
Listen to me. You shouldn't be here. Run along and practice forging signatures or something, will
Just
you?
remember I'll be on the same boat.
Right, old man. I'll endeavor to bear up under the news. Fool.
What's he, pal? A torpedo?
A what?
Don't need to clam up with me, pal. Is he a torpedo?
Wherever did you pick up this repellent language? Now, if you...
Cheese it. Here, hey, happens K, the Astums K, and me.
I had just made up my mind to cuff this provoking child where it would do him the most good when out of the corner of my eye I saw that he was right. The customs man was coming. I looked around to make sure the Perkins pair were beyond earshot. And they were.
All right, now, luggage ready?
Oh, right here, officer. Just this overnight bag.
Let's see, papers?
Oh, yes, here we are.
Yes.
I can't imagine why you singled me out for this attention, officer.
Harry Lime.
Yes.
Passport in order. You're declaring...
Just the 5 pounds allowed of British subject, officer, though I believe I could take more.
All right, I can read, thanks.
Where's the stuff hid, pal?
Scram.
What's that?
Nothing, officer. Just stifling, sneeze.
Oh, Gesundheit. Well, everything seems to be in order.
My dear old customs officer, don't sound so disappointed. Into each life some rain must fall.
All right, now then, who's next on my list?
Pal, are you lucky? You must have been living right.
Never confuse luck with shrewd management, my odious little man. Any other questions?
Yes. When are you going to make up your mind whether your name is Lime or Linchester?
Just as my hand shot out to grab his collar, he ducked away into the crowd. I could see him with the governess and the man I heard her calling his uncle, just getting ready to board the boat. How much had he heard? Who would he tell? If only that kid would keep quiet till we were safe in the channel.
In a moment, Orson Welles returns as Harry Lime, the third man. And now, Orson Welles as Harry Lime continues today's story.
I took one last look down at the pier side as our boat moved off. I could see the governess. She was frantically looking about for that brat. He'd disappeared again. Then I forgot him and went looking for the Perkinses. Perkins?
Yeah?
It's me, Linchester.
Oh, good. Come on in, sir. Come on in.
Thanks, old man. Well, Mrs. Perkins, feel better now, do you, after getting through the customs all right?
I feel terrible.
What? Oh, I'm sorry. I touched the sea, huh? Nothing like a glass of champagne to fix that up.
Oh, I'm afraid nothing does her any good, Lord Lanchester.
Oh.
Quiet, dear. Well, sir?
You, have the envelope safe, don't you? I hope.
Right in my pocket. Here, don't worry.
Oh, fine.
I was, just wondering. Of course, glad to do the favor for you. I'm sure you understand, but, now that I brought the money through for you, I was, just wondering.
Oh, about my foreign investment possibilities, eh?
Yes. If there were some possibility of...
Perkins, old man, I can't think of anything that would give me greater satisfaction, keener personal pleasure. I'm sure you know that.
Well, I like to think that maybe
I've already indicated the difficulty. My money's at the disposal of a mysterious financier, a man called Robinson. I'll be honest with you, I don't even know the man's first name myself. I'm sworn to the most close-mouthed secrecy about the entire venture. All I can do is promise you that I'll try to persuade Robinson to let me introduce you to him.
I had hoped, well, you know, maybe if I'd happened onto a good thing, I'd be
Yes,
able
I
to
know.
finance my entire European trip.
Yes.
Well, here you are, then.
Thank you.
Yeah, you better count it just to make sure that...
My dear fellow, of course I trust you implicitly. However, just to set your mind at rest. Here we are. 1, 3, 5, 5 is 10, 5, 18, 20, 5 is 30. All here. All present and accounted for. And once again, my thanks.
We'll be stopping at the George Sank in Paris,
Oh,
Lord
fine.
Manchester.
George
After you
Sank.
talk to your,
Absolutely, old man. I'll call you just as soon as I've had a chance to talk to Robinson.
Now, you won't forget, sir.
I
will you?
swear I won't, old man. Just as sure as my name is Linchester. Goodbye now.
From his cabin to mine was only a short step. I'd locked my cabin door when I left it to find Perkins and reclaim the $30,000. But just when I was beginning to think I had nothing further to worry about, I reached my cabin door and realized that it was no longer locked. That's funny. Oh, that explains it.
Come in, Lime. Shut the door behind you.
Well, I generally do, old man. I generally do. It doesn't require an order. Well, made yourself comfy, I hope? Didn't realize that you included lock-picking among your many accomplishments, old man. But on the other hand, it would have been a safe guess.
Less gabble, sit.
Come, old man. This is a time for rejoicing. Why the grim, determined expression? Get up, dance, kick your heels together. Your old friend has pulled it off again, and you were the richer by $15,000.
30?
Yes, 30. Surely your arithmetic leaves something to be desired. Supposing I run over our little agreement again. For getting your money through customs, you were supposed to pay me 1/3. Now, 1/3 of 30 is 10. In addition
Stow the gab and hand it over.
In addition
Come on,
to which you
hold it.
wagered that I would be unable to pass myself off as an Englishman to Mr. George Perkins of Texas. $5,000 even money. 5 and 10 make 15, and so you owe me $15,000. In consequence, I owe you the other 15, half the boodle. Very simple.
Have you finished?
For the moment.
Good, Lime. Now I'll talk. This gun is bulky because of the silencer, see? The cabins on either side are empty. I happen to know, for I saw the passengers in them drinking in the saloon. If you like, I'll let the gun do all the talking for me. I want all the 30,000, understand? And I want it handed over now.
You seem very determined.
I am. When you reach into your inside jacket pocket, Lime, make very sure that the only thing you bring out is the envelope with the money, or I shoot. I mean it.
Dear. Who would have thought that a man of your sterling character would stoop to such a double cross? Well, if it must be, it must be. I was actually reaching for the envelope when all of a sudden I heard a little sound just behind me. A sound at the door. The doorknob had just been turned. Well, I wanted whoever was coming in to come in behind Robinson's back.
Hey, where you going?
Just walking over to sit on my berth, old man. Surely you don't object to my being comfortable while you rob me of my share.
Well, just keep both your hands where I can see them.
Why should I not? Why, indeed. I reached into my pocket very slowly and carefully for the envelope, but my eyes never left the doorknob. Robinson, whose back was to the door, couldn't see it. It was opening slowly. Very slowly.
Come on, get a move on. Hand me that envelope, Lime.
Now the door was open, just as I handed him the envelope. From behind Robinson, there came a snarled command.
All right, punk, get him up. Reach for the roof.
What the...
My hand closed on a heavy ashtray as Robinson wheeled toward the door in surprise.
Why, it's just a kid. Come in here, you.
Thank you, Ronald.
He really had a gun.
Well, it wasn't a pea shooter.
Is he out?
Out? Well, a heavy object like this ashtray is brought forcibly to bear on a brittle object like that skull, Ronald. The result, it is fair to predict, will be a minor concussion and consequent unconsciousness.
Is he dead?
Well, Robinsons don't die so easily, Ronald, my boy. Come in. Sit down. Well, we'll keep this door closed, I think, for the next few minutes.
What you going to do?
Well, we're going to truss up this specimen till he looks like a cocoon, that's what. Not forgetting to gag him securely in the bargain. There we are.
I didn't know you really had a gun.
Oh.
Might he have killed you?
Well, I like to think he wouldn't.
He was a torpedo, wasn't he?
What's a torpedo?
Oh, you know, a gunman, a gangster.
What have you been doing, young man? Going to American gangster movies? Where do you pick up this tedious slang?
I go to all the American flicks. They're keen.
Disgraceful. There. That should keep our friend quiet for a time.
Why was he going to kill you, Mr. Lime?
Well, how do you know who I am?
I heard the customs man when he read your name off your passport.
Oh, yes, to be sure.
I heard that other man call you Lord Linchester, too, but I knew you weren't Linchester.
And how is that?
You're American, aren't you? I say, tell me, why was he trying to kill you?
Well, Robinson is a very bad man, Ronald. He was trying to smuggle money out of the country, and as you know, that's against the law.
I know that. Were you trying to stop him?
Well, that's one way of putting it, I suppose.
I say, that's splendid.
Besides, he was trying to welch on a bet he'd lost to me.
A bet?
He'd owed me $5,000 for a bet. I'll just take that. Let us stop it safely away.
Say, how about me?
You?
Sure. Split up the swag. Didn't I save you from being...
But this isn't swag, Ronald. This is...
Just a minute, pal.
Tell you what I'll do. Here. You take this one bill,
$1,000? Is it real?
Well, it is unless I've been grossly deceived. Here, now, fold it up tight. Stick it into your watch pocket. That's it. You know what that is?
What?
That's hush money. Now, you run along back to your cabin, and mind you don't tell anybody about this. Anybody at all.
I have no cabin. I'm a stowaway.
Oh, my God.
I came aboard following suspicious characters.
Who?
You. And now we're partners, aren't we?
Fine. So we're partners. Okay. You know what your first job will be, partner?
What?
You sit right here and keep a watch on Robinson. Make sure he can't get out of these sheets I've tied around him, okay?
But where will you...
I'll be in and out. First of all, I gotta tell the captain what's happened, and I'll be back. But you stay here, right, Ronald? Promise not to stir out of this room? Very important. Somebody should be here all the time. Right? Promise?
I promise I won't move. And if he tries to escape, I'll shoot him dead.
The big thing was to get away from that awful kid. He was getting to be like a patch of poison ivy for me. I'd only have to steer clear of him for another few minutes, though the boat was nearly ready to dock by that time in Calais. Up on deck, I ran into Perkins again.
Now, you won't forget, Lord Manchester.
Please, old man, I gave you my word as a Linchester. You're feeling better, I hope, Mrs. Perkins? I had the $29,000, $5,000 I'd won on the bet. That was tucked into a waistcoat pocket. $24,000 left. That was in my billfold, but the coast was clear. The more money I brought into France, the better the French should like it. I was about ready to be Harry Lime again, and the feeling, believe me, was good. The steamer docked, and there was a delay. The gangplank was rigged. Delay again. And at last, here I come. Down the gangway, my pulse beat normal and my heart high.
There he is. That's the man. That's the one. Seize him.
Seen you somewhere before, haven't I?
What's the meaning of this?
Seize him.
Who is this hysterical female?
He's the man who was talking to poor Ronald. Kidnapper.
Now, Miss Anstruther.
Kidnapper.
Everything will be all right in a moment.
Kidnapper? What a grotesquerie. Take your hands off me,
Where
woman.
is he? What have you done with him, monster? Where's my Ronald?
Oh, we have the same child in mind, madam. He's very probably sitting peacefully in cabin 23
Here
on...
I am.
Ronald.
Ronald.
Are you all right?
Sure, I'm fine. Who are these men?
Never mind, dear. Don't trouble about them. They're just two very nice men from Scotland Yard who flew me over to save you from this bad man who was trying to kidnap you.
Dear madam, if you will kindly...
He's not a kidnapper. He's a hero.
Yes.
He caught a man who was trying to smuggle money out of the country, and he tied him up, and I'm his partner, and we're both detectives. And you must let him go because there's probably a reward for the man that he caught.
Wait a mo, what's this?
What cabin, sir?
Yes, certainly, the boy's right. The guilty party is, as I was just trying to tell you, in cabin 23 on the second deck. Thank you, Ronald.
And you've still got the money, haven't you?
Yes, that's so I do. Just looking for the proper person to return it to, of course, if I could just see your credentials, old man.
Right here.
Just so, and the money. Yes, it is. Here you are. I was keeping it carefully stowed away in my waistcoat pockets, you see. 5,000 American dollars.
I want to thank you very much, sir. Very civic-minded thing to do. Now, about the fellow who was trying
Come on, men. I'll show you where he is.
Ronald, you come straight back here with me. Do you hear? It's all the fault of those dreadful American cinematographs. The single most pernicious influence on the growing English boy is the shocking behavior portrayed in...
I'd like to have your name, sir, so the commissioner can send you a proper letter of gratitude.
Oh, not at all. Please, never mind, really, old chap. If I weren't rather in a hurry,
All right, sir, just as you please. But thanks again.
All right.
We'll attend to the fellow in cabin 23.
One moment, please.
Yes, sir?
That's a rather extraordinary boy. Do you happen to know his name?
Him, sir? Oh, rather. That's the little Earl of Linchester, sir. Come along, Stevens.
Right with you.
The little Earl of Linchester.
Harry Lime will be back in just a moment. And now, Harry Lime.
I haven't seen his lordship since then, but believe me, wherever I go, I keep a sharp eye out for little Ronald. Not that we aren't friends now, but I'm the careful type. My mother, who was careful too, warned me against speaking to strangers. I wish I could manage to keep her advice. And my father, who was Irish, warned me about the English, in particular the toffs and the nabobs and the high mucky mucksety. They're the ones you got to watch. Well, I don't know about that. Some of my best suckers are in Burke's Peerage. But Daddy never said a word about the tiny tots. Well, I guess what Daddy didn't know didn't hurt him. Well, time to go. And always remember, friends, the wages of sin aren't as high as they ought to be, considering the overhead. Goodbye now.
73 years ago, February 6, 1952, The Lives of Harry Lime here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Coming up on tomorrow's program, the Sunday edition, the FBI in Peace and War, and we also mentioned Frontier Gentleman, Mr. Keen, Tracer of Lost Persons, Lights Out, and another episode of Superman. And then coming up on Monday's show, Jack Benny, along with my friend Irma, both shows from 1952. We'll also have an episode of Fibber McGee and Molly, Sam Shubble, on how he lost his aunt's pay, and that Sam Shubble mystery, yes, and Claudia. And then we'll have coming up another episode of The Big Show. We'll have that coming up in a couple of days as well, along with an episode of 20 Questions. A lot of stuff coming up here in the next few days here on Classic Radio Theater. Coming up next, though, Claudia.
Civil defense is common sense. This is Joni James. After nuclear attack, what radioactive fallout will be a potential threat to every living thing. You can't hear or smell or taste fallout. Often you can't see it. So you must take shelter and stay there until told it's safe to leave.
And we wrap up this episode of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox with another episode of Claudia. We had that 76 years ago, February 8th, 1949.
Your Coca-Cola bottler presents Claudia, based on the famous play and novels by Rose Franken. Brought to you transcribed Monday through Friday by your friendly neighbor who bottles Coca-Cola. Relax, and while you're listening, refresh yourself. Have a Coke. And now, Claudia.
Your pipe makes such a nice smell for an evening.
Mm-hmm. It's what the well-dressed man smokes at night.
Oh, that's why you smoke it.
Oh, that's the only reason.
I see. I bet you it doesn't taste as good as it smells.
Now, that you will not find out.
The double standard again. I wonder how soon women will be allowed to smoke pipes.
Over my dead body.
That's a fine way to talk. My, you certainly do use up ashtrays, don't you?
What's that?
I said you certainly do use up ashtrays.
That's what they're for. Blast it.
What'd you say?
Consarned ashtray.
What is the matter
So
with
darn
it?
small, I keep spilling my ashes out on the table. Ouch, ouch. I burn my hand.
Just use a little care, dear.
Yeah. What I want to know is, why do I have to use such a little ashtray?
Oh, here, I'll empty it out for you. Gimme.
Claudia, I'm just emptying my pipe.
Well, wait a minute till I empty the ashtray.
Now, look what you've done.
What have I done?
You whisked the ashtray out from under my pipe.
Well, how clever of you to catch the ashes in your hand, David. You're so quick.
But my hand is not an ashtray.
It's doing beautifully, beautifully. I'll just empty this one out and then give it back to you. Now, where did I put the silent butler?
Will you hurry up? It's a little warm.
Silent butler, silent butler. Isn't that a sweet name for the little business to put the ashes in? Silent butler. Don't be so silent. Where are you?
Why can't you wait to empty the ashtray until I'm through smoking my pipe?
'Cause you're never through. You empty your
not
pipe
through.
more than you smoke
Yeah,
it. You know
sure,
that?
sure.
Tap, tap, tap. Ashtray's flooded over.
Now, if you have a decent-sized ashtray around here, they wouldn't flood over so fast.
Oh, that old
As a matter of fact, to repeat that old story again, I don't see why we can't have some decent man-sized ashtrays around the house.
Because.
Because
Yes, because.
if I weren't the kind of man who smokes a pipe, all right, keep your ladylike ashtrays. But you told me you like my smoking a pipe, and I like my smoking a pipe, so why can't I have a decent man-sized ashtray?
Because this room is a living room and not a man's club.
Well, it's my living room, too, you know.
Of course, darling. We have a big chair for you and all the comforts you desire.
No, but one. A little
Ashtray,
tiny
I know.
ashtray, yeah. Boy.
Now be sensible, David. Look at this delicate little table. You can't have an enormous ashtray sitting on it.
Why not?
Because it would be out of kilter. And those end tables, you can't have enormous ashtrays on them either.
They'd be out of kilter.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Why do they have to have little saucers instead of ashtrays? Well, these fancy little things wouldn't hold
Because they fit in with the mood of the room.
But they don't fit in with the mood of my pipe.
Well, you can't have everything.
I certainly realize that. But why can't I have a big ashtray? That's
David,
not much.
don't sound so persecuted.
I am persecuted.
Here, it's a nice, clean ashtray, and you can fill it up to your heart's content.
Well, my heart's content is not so easily contented. Here now, where are you going with that ashtray?
Just picking it up to dust the ashes off the table.
Claudia, I am still sitting here with ashes in my hand.
Oh, do you good. Keep the moths out of it.
That's carpets.
Right. Here you are, grumpy.
Grumpy.
Oh, now look at this tabletop. Have to wax it tomorrow.
Hey, what are you doing with that lamp?
I'm just straightening it out. Go on, darling, read your book.
Read my
Don't
book?
let me disturb you.
No. It would take a yogi in the 7th stage not to be disturbed by you when you start feeling neat.
Just tidying up a little. I don't like to
Tidying
have
up.
ashes floating around.
Oh, what are you doing down on the floor?
Reducing my hips.
You don't have any hips.
Worse luck. There. Last of the ashes.
Thank heavens.
I'm not disturbing you, David.
No, no.
I know by now when you're reading a book, you don't want to be disturbed.
Well, you should.
Oh, will you look at those poor old dead flowers? How have I ever left them around so long?
Because you hate throwing anything out.
Oh, I guess they're just dead.
They
They
did.
were
all right.
lovely when they were alive, weren't they? Oh, well, I suppose I better empty them while I'm at it.
Can't you do anything without
There's no
talking?
water in the bowl.
Heavens
No
above.
wonder the flowers are dead, poor things. Now, why do you suppose there's no water in the bowl? Do you think the dogs drank it?
Oh, sure. They took to sipping.
David,
Hmm.
you're getting ashes on the table again.
Well, it can't be helped again.
Well, you could try to get them in the ashtray.
A lima bean would be too big for this ashtray.
That is a beautiful piece of Staffordshire, David.
Staffordshire or Worcestershire or whatever you want to call it is not for pipe ashes. Cigarettes, maybe, but not for pipe.
But it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
David, I've just dusted that table. Look at what... Oh, well. When one has a man around the house, one must expect these things, I suppose.
Yes, one must.
I do love the smell of your pipe.
But
But me no buts. But I suppose every silver lining has its cloud.
every ashes has its pipe.
I must philosophize and take the good with the bad. And I must also take these flowers into the kitchen. They look like their own funeral.
A funeral long since dead.
My, you're so morbid tonight.
All this talk about ashes.
Funny. All the different things that ashes mean. David, kiss me.
Now, I suppose all of this has just been leading up to that.
Of course.
My, what a silly girl you are.
Dreadful.
Now, I'll give you a kiss and then you skadoodle.
It's a bargain.
Claudia, quit.
What's the matter?
You're tickling the back of my neck.
I'm not anywhere near the back of your neck.
Something's tickling the back of my neck.
Oh, for heaven's sake, it's the dead flowers.
No, I told you that something was...
Well, I'll take them right out to the kitchen. I might just as well leave the bowl right there on the table. It looks nice. Darling, you remember who gave us that bowl?
No, haven't the slightest idea.
It's a wedding present.
I've been married too long to remember each and every wedding present.
Has it really been that long?
Certainly has.
In case you're interested, a girl I went to school with gave it to me.
She couldn't be much of a girl. It isn't much of a bowl.
I like it. Short and squatty.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose you prefer the tall, thin ones like ostriches.
Oh, yes, I much prefer ostriches.
I like this one because it looks like the bottom half of a balloon.
Mhm.
Don't you think? It's lovely and heavy, too. It's very convenient shape.
You were going to throw those flowers in the kitchen, remember?
Oh, yes, so I was.
Yeah, so you were.
I'll only be gone a minute, darling.
Well, I'll just sit here and pine away. You go right
Is
ahead.
there anything you want from the kitchen while I'm out
No,
there?
not a thing.
Oh. A glass of milk, baby.
No, not a thing.
I'll bring you a box of kitchen matches.
I don't need them. You want me to answer that? I suppose that silence means yes. What a night. Ashtrays, ashes, dead flowers, bowls that aren't ostriches, doorbells ringing.
Tucker here.
Say, I didn't expect it to be you, Mr. Tucker. The doorbell rang.
Well, I rang the doorbell as kind of advance notice. Left my orchestra home.
Well, come on in the living room.
Mrs. Norton, she out tonight?
Oh, no, she just went in the kitchen for something. She'll be right back in.
I was walking up to Matthew Warren, saw the light burning in your living room, so I thought I'd pop in and pass the time of day with you a bit.
Very glad you did.
Yeah, with the hour it is, pass the time of night rather than pass the time of day, I guess, eh?
How about a smoke, Mr. Tucker?
Well, I got my pipe with me here.
Oh, here, then have some of my tobacco.
Well, don't mind if I do. Though I'll warn you, son, it won't make no difference to me.
What won't?
Well, my tobacco or your tobacco inside my mouth. The insides of my mouth has gotten so calloused with age, I wouldn't taste the kick of a mule. But if you don't mind wasting it,
No, go right ahead.
Thanks. Wait till you're 86, son. Just wait till you're 86.
I can wait. Here, you want a light?
Oh, I got me own matches. I never borrow what I got.
Yeah, just use that ashtray there on the table.
Oh, right, son. Well, what do you know? Smell this here tobacco right through the roof of my mouth.
You see, you're not as calloused as you think.
Wonder if my palate's got so calloused from talking or smoking. Reckon from talking. My sister Delilah, she says I talk more than a chattering monkey. But I always kind of considered myself a silent man, slow-spoken and tight-tongued. Oh, well, I guess no one sees themselves as others see them, which for most folks is probably a good thing. It's a nice, comfortable room, this here room of yours is.
David, this room is blue with smoke. How many pipes you smoking?
Oh, howdy, ma'am.
Why, Mr. Tucker, is that you there behind that thick veil? Hello. Have you been hiding there all evening?
Wished I had.
Well, make yourself at home.
I already am, and as such, I want to tell you something.
Oh, here we go.
I noticed something about you that's very rare.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Your husband here invited me to sit down for a smoke with him, and I must say, ma'am, you're a woman among women.
Oh?
If I'd found a woman of your understanding when I was a lad, I dare say I would have let myself get married, too.
Well, I love the smell of pipe smoke. Is that unusual?
No, it ain't what I'm leading up to. Yep, wait till I get home and tell my Delilah. It'll teach that sister of mine a couple of things.
What will teach your sister what, Mr. Tucker?
You're the first woman, ma'am, who has a decent-sized ashtray around the house.
Me?
Most females.
I
They only got these here picayune little namby-pamby ashtrays. Piece of glass or china. They don't allow their husbands the luxury of a decent-sized ashtray.
David, what have you been telling Mr. Tucker?
No, I haven't been telling Mr. Tucker anything.
Anything I can't stand is having to tap out my pipe into an ashtray the size of a silver dollar. Then a woman blames you if you get ashes on the floor, ashes on the table. Man, you sure are to be congratulated.
This is a plot.
See what the comfort it is to tap my pipe out into a full-grown ashtray?
David, the flower bowl.
Yep, Mrs. Norton, Your wife, Mr. Norton, she's quite a woman.
Well, as a matter of fact, Mr. Tucker, Claudia and I were discussing ashtrays just before you came in.
And Mr. Tucker, there's something I have to tell you.
I'm talking.
David,
Mr. Tucker, one thing that Claudia simply insists on having around the house are things to make life pleasanter and easier and so much simpler for a man.
Oh, David.
And one of those things, since I happen to be a pipe smoker, I mean, you know I've always been a pipe smoker.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have to have is a good-sized, great big, convenient ashtray.
Well, sure be a lucky man.
You see, Claudia doesn't go in for all those little saucers and fancy silver or glass or china dishes. Oh, no, sir. She realizes the value of giving a man what he needs.
I can't stand this.
And the fact that an ashtray is a little out of proportion to her table, why, poof. Claudia is enough of a woman to overcome that.
David, I hate you.
Well, keep talking, son. My jaw is dropping in respect.
Just one more word, Mr. Tucker. Usually, I don't like to compliment my wife too much.
Well, it ain't a good idea.
Oh, but one must give the devil her due. Claudia knows that the secret of our happy, unruffled marriage, Mr. Tucker, is a good-sized ashtray.
Hey, what was that? The saucer broke?
Darling, you dropped your little ashtray.
No, it's not a little ashtray, David. It's just a little piece of the past.
When it's time for one of your favorite radio programs, make the most of that interlude. Relax thoroughly
Have a bottle of ice-cold Coca-Cola handy. Sit back, drink, and listen refreshed. And if guests join you of an evening for a popular radio show, serve Coke all around. Let everyone enjoy the pause that refreshes.
Say, do you notice Mrs. Norton, she didn't blink an eyelash when she dropped that ashtray?
Because there's more to it than meets an eyelash, Mr. Tucker.
Well, there always is, son. Well, I've had my pipe. I best be getting home.
Will we see you tomorrow?
I don't believe so. Mr. Norton, he's taking Mrs. Norton into the big city with him.
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh, I guess a woman's got to window shop and feel cityfied once in a while, so he's taking her to dinner to some fancy restaurant, he told me.
And thank you for telling me.
Well, 'twas my pleasure. I always enjoy repeating what ain't a secret.
What is a secret?
Them's what I enjoy repeating even more. Well, so long, son.
Goodbye, Mr. Tucker. Every day, Monday through Friday, Claudia comes to you transcribed with the best wishes of your friendly neighbor who bottles Coca-Cola. So listen again tomorrow at the same time. And now this is Joe King saying au revoir. And remember, whoever you are, whatever you do, wherever you may be, when you think of refreshment, think of Coca-Cola. For Coca-Cola makes any pause the pause that refreshes. And ice-cold Coca-Cola is everywhere. This broadcast of Claudia was supervised and directed by William Brown Maloney.
Every couple has a conflict every so often, and we wouldn't expect nothing less from David and Claudia. 76 years ago, February 8th, 1949, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Visit our webpage at classicradio.stream, and we'll see you next time for more Classic Radio Theater. I'm Wyatt Cox.